And you are watching another Blitz film review. He has that ability to, trust me, he definitely does. Just his ability to catch balls outside of his frame, his leaping ability, his ability to hang in the air, his yak ability, it's all there. Lowers his helmet, low man wins, bang, rocks a guy.
Hall running free, Brees Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
The corners all do their job. You know, if you look at the picture right here, lock.
3rd and 1. Stevens always drilled. What a great defensive play.
I don't try to Monday morning quarterback any of the reviews I do, and I'll try to be honest with a lot of the things I put up. And you are watching / listening to another edition of Blitz. 2 more to go until the NFL draft is finally here, so I can stop hearing about how bad JC Latham is, and I can stop hearing about Brock Bowers as per usual. We also have Dakota spamming the chat with Brock Bowers stuff as per usual. So we'll talk about that. I'll just get into the housekeeping a little bit before we get going. Obviously, again, the draft in 2 weeks. I will be on the stream after the first probably like 16 to 20 picks. I'll be on for the back half of the first round, and then that Friday I will be on. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to just do it solo, and then I'm going to see if I want to open the phone lines, which I may open the phone lines on that Friday. And then just in terms of some actually, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this in turn on the actual vote here. So I was curious your guys' opinion on this. I'm going to be doing a rotation now in terms of like the shows, because I do a lot of solos. I'm going to do a rotation. I'm going to have Robbie on once a month, Robbie Sabo. I'm going to have Nania on once a month. There's a third show that may be happening, something may be coming about. I don't want to speak about it before it happens, but that third show is hopefully taken up. And then the fourth show, a month, again, a four week rotation. I am going to I'm trying to figure this out, how to do this at the same time. I'm going to be doing either solo or call-ins. So I was curious. I don't know if I could do like a poll in here. I don't know if, no, I can't. Hold on. I got to change this. I want to do a poll to get your guys' opinions on whether you'd like me to do that fourth show and it be a solo show or it be a call-in show, because there's some people who like the solo stuff because the chats get answered and all of that. And then there's people who don't want the solo show because it's too dry, whatever, and they want the call-in. So I'm legitimately going to ask you guys, and it might actually dictate what I'm going to do. I'm going to do fourth. This is for you guys, fourth show. So I appreciate you. Didn't mean to do this off the bat, but yes, solo or call-ins. You guys tell me, and that's probably what I'll do, at least for now. Again, some people like the call-in. Some people think that bringing on people is not the best idea, kind of depending on the show. But nonetheless, I'm curious to see your guys' results there. So answer it if you could. So that's the plan. Robbie, Nania, one other person potentially, maybe not now, maybe in the future, and then a solo or a call-in. So that's the gist. I just recorded Joe Alt. Joe Alt should be released probably tomorrow now. After Joe Alt, I'm going to do Neighbors tomorrow, and then Neighbors should be released in a couple of days after that. So you have Neighbors, Alt, Fashanu, Fuaga, Latham, Bowers, and maybe somebody else that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but plenty of draft reviews out. You have plenty more coming. I just started to do actually finish my Ashton Davis review. I just got to actually record it. Started a Jamie and Sherwood one. So I got 30 reviews in totality, and I think I've released like 5 or 6 of them. So and then obviously the people in the draft, whoever we draft, I will be doing them, and maybe some UDFAs. Let's say hello to some people in the chat. Brock Bowers or Roma Dunze to New York at 10. I'll give my opinion on that. Roma Dunze over Brock Bowers for me personally. I would be more excited with Roma Dunze. Again, I've said it pretty clearly quite a few times. It's not that I'm so down on Bowers. It's that I have a lot of questions. I think that Brock Bowers could be a stud, but there are questions I have about him. So it's not that he's not a first round player. It's not that I think he's a terrible prospect, almost like JJ. Like people say, oh, I hate JJ. No, I didn't like JJ at 4. I didn't like JJ at 10. I love JJ at 26. I don't like Brock Bowers at 10. I would love Brock Bowers at 16 in a trade down. You know, like there's different levels. So me saying that I don't like him at 10 is not me saying I hate prospects, but you know how it is, black or white. But I've made my opinion pretty clear on Bowers at this point. So it is what it is. If you're not going to listen, you're just going to put words in my mouth, then that's fine, which some people are doing, which is, again, it's fine. Neighbors, no matter what, Jets need welcome back, Eagle fan. I don't know if you've been here for the last couple of weeks, but Jets need a guy to game break trade to the two number ones and get Neighbors at 4. I don't think you have to go up to 4 though, right, Eagle? And like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the difference in Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr., you know, again, I would like to watch Marvin Harrison Jr. like fully before I like really put my stake at this. I would say Harrison Jr. over Neighbors. So I think you would trade up to 6 and get Neighbors, Eagle, which maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does go at 4. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. at 6, at 5, something like that. I think it'd probably cost like a 2nd and a 4th. And again, like that 4th could be an absolute stud. That 4th could be Max Mitchell. You know, that 2nd round pick that we give up next year could be a stud, or it could be Devin Smith, you know, Stephen Hill, whoever. It could just be an okay player, you know. And do you want to give up in the 4th round, which is a complete dart throw, probably a hit chance of 15, 20%, if that. And that 15 to 20% hit could just be a role player, not a stud. So even if you get like a decent player in the 4th or a role player in the 4th is a good pick. And let's say the player in the 2nd round is a decent player, like 2 decent players, or trading up and getting Malik Neighbors, who could be an absolute stud. You know, I think people are too obsessed with draft picks and like what they could be, when at this point, I get, and I'm more in the boat of trading up for the known thing, because at this point the Jets have only a few needs, which we'll talk about. You need some interior offensive line. You need one of them. You need a tackle. You need a backup running back. I would still argue the Jets could use a safety. I know that people are high on Ashton Davis. I just watched the entire season. If he had to play significant time, am I confident in him? No, not necessarily. So I think a safety could still be a spot to fill for the Jets, but it's a lot of depth spots. The only starting spot the Jets need right now is a starting level receiver. Mike Williams obviously has battled some health problems. He's coming off the torn ACL. So does he even come back? You know, the first couple of weeks of the season, does he get injured? So you need a starter. And I think filling that hole with a stud of a receiver who in most drafts is going to be number 1 in a trade up is worth it to me. I get the people who are thinking with their head again, stick and pick. But in terms of pieces that are going to push you over the top, if we're going to assume health, if we're going to assume that Morgan Moses, who's been healthy throughout his career, stays healthy, if we're going to assume that Tyron Smith, who, knock on wood, has played every playoff game that he's ever been a part of, if those 2 guys are healthy, that 10th pick, let's say it's Fatanu, let's say it's Fashanu, is most likely sitting on the bench. Whereas Neighbors is going to play, in that Super Bowl, unless, shit hits the fan. Now, I can't attest to any of the character concerns, but, I don't really buy into a lot of stuff that's coming out in mid-April about guys' character and stuff like that, because it could just as easily be a team, trying to push them down draft boards, So to me, yeah, I'm super down for a trade up for Neighbors. That's my preferred option right now, Eagle. I can even see them trading up for Marvin Harrison Jr. if they did it. Again, I know that first round pick, like, oh, we don't want to give up next year's first and all that stuff. The Jets are hopefully, if they make this trade, going to be picking 32nd next year. So if you're giving up the 32nd pick next year, or let's just say, 29, 28, 29, it's going to be at least mid-20s, you'd assume, low 20s. If you're going to give that up for Harrison Jr., who may be a generational receiver, again, in a year where you're trying to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, I'm willing to do it. I am. At this point, I'm getting pretty bold on the trade up camp. But again, I get the wanting the offensive lineman as well. So I'm gonna JC Penny Latham the pick. I'm not sure if that's like an insult to JC Latham, but JC Penny. Keep going down. We got some spam tight end talk here that I don't really feel like addressing. Okay, let's see. Harold says, I actually like Rome more after the review. I saw some things on a few routes that made me think he can become a more refined route runner and learn to vary his release package, specifically foot quickness. Yeah, no, Rome has a really intriguing ceiling, right? Because like he's relatively explosive for his size. I think he has pretty smooth acceleration. He has pretty smooth deep speed. Is able to contort his body, ridiculous body control. From what I saw on film, a ridiculous vertical. So he has a lot of traits. It's just about, again, refining the footwork, the foot speed like you're talking about, setting guys up with that initial stem, forcing them to flip their hips outside to get inside or vice versa, inside to outside. He needs work there. But you're assuming that the Jets, hopefully would, if they were to pick him, are not really going to force him as the X. Now, if he's going to be the X and going to be like a runoff player on a post, and they're really trying to hit a dig underneath or something like that, I get it. But in terms of him being like an actual option, do you want him playing X right now and getting jammed by corners? No. Now, if you're playing off coverage, a zone team, something like that, then yeah, sure, play him at X. But you don't want him at X right now. But yeah, he's intriguing, Harold, for sure. Like if he's a pick if the pick is him at 10, like it's like a B- pick to me. Like it's not a bad pick. I just would prefer other guys over him. And I'm gonna be excited about just the ability to go up and get it with this Jets offense. If you're in trouble and you have Mike Williams and Rome Odunze, like pick your poison, throw up to whichever one of those guys is, single covered. And even if they don't come down with the ball, the chances of it being intercepted is pretty low. So it's an exciting prospect. It is. And I could even understand Rome over, some of the offensive linemen at 10. Like it's not a thing where, let's say, like Fashanu and Rome are on the board, and those are the two guys who we're looking at, and they pick Rome. I'm like, oh my God, no way. Like the fan, like the heart in me is saying like, okay, take Rome over Fashanu at 10. Now it's Latham, different story, but my big board, which I'm going to release next week, it might have what is it called? Rome over Fashanu at 10, just because of the upside. I do like the upside of Rome Odunze as well. Not Your Average Show with Jordan Charles. Let's rock and roll. Go Jets. I'm not hitting all that. That's Twitter is always an interesting place. I did not expect that one last night. I know that's about. I'm sure most people do, but nonetheless, I'm not going to try to make any accusations. I'll definitely have Sabo and Nania on once a month. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do again. Nania, Sabo, 4-week rotation, third guest. Maybe we'll see exactly what happens with that. And then the fourth one, again, is it a solo thing where I'm going to hit the chat like I typically do? I know some people appreciate that I hit almost every single chat. Do you want that? If I do call-ins, I'm undoubtedly going to be able to hit less of the chat. So if you're just a chatter and you don't really call into stuff, then I get just saying, hey, I don't really care about call-ins. So I'm giving you guys the power right now for that. Stay at 10 for either offensive tackles, Bowers, or that's you kind of covered all the bases there, Dakota. I got to fuck with you a little bit. I'm opinionless on solos or calls, and maybe solo, mostly solo. What's good, fam? Thank God it's Friday. Let's go. It's actually I guess it's my Friday too. I have 3 days off this week, but I have off Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week. So it's actually good. It hurts sometimes when I work, I'll work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I'll see all the tweets and stuff. I'm like, oh, it's Friday. It's like, it's my Monday. It kind of sucks. Tony, the GM, you do great film breakdowns. I appreciate that. So another solo show would basically be like this. Or there would be no chat. No, it would be all chat. That's basically all it is. It's the solo show would be all chat versus call-ins, which would be some call-ins and then some chat, so depends. Sorry I missed last week. I was doing workouts. I've been on my diet. Yeah, I saw that. 37 pounds. That's awesome. That's actually my badge number, 37. But congrats to you, Eagle. Keep it up. It's something that you got to do when you're relatively young. I know you're probably maybe a little bit younger than me or around my age, but it gets harder as you get older. And obviously, if you feel like you're overweight, your heart does more work. And then, unfortunately people pass because their heart can't do it, So awesome, Eagle. That's good to hear. I'm hoping to see that's like 40 pounds next week. Keep dropping it. Unless you're yoked now, you never know. Maybe Eagles is yoked. Good luck. Health is wealth. Yeah, for sure. Have you looked at JPJ? I have not. Sean says a first next year is going to be real late. Hopefully in that case, I'd be fine with that for Marvin Harrison. Again, that 32nd pick next year, like 31st, 30th, it could be a good player or it could not, right? Like we're just trying to be realistic. I know people fall in love with the draft and names and stuff like that, but for Marvin Harrison Jr., a first next year, dude, like I'm at the point now where I do it. I do. Like imagine Marvin Harrison, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson. again, I understand trading down, being smart, building for the future, all of that stuff. But in an all-in year, and even next year, an all-in year, Marvin Harrison Jr. might be he might be Jamar Chase. Obviously he may not be. He could be Jamar Chase. He could be Waddle. He could be an absolute stud. If you add him to that threesome of receivers with Brees, with Conklin, dude, like your offense is ridiculous. Now, with that being said, it's not like it's not like the draft happens and then we can't make free agency moves, right? Like we could trade for Marvin Harrison, and then guess what? We signed Bakhtiari, we signed Donovan Smith, and like realistically, again, again, knock on wood, let's say the over under for that games the tackle is going to play is 6.5, 7.5, something around that, 6 to 8 games they're going to play. And in the playoffs, you'd hope that they'd be sitting on the bench. So it's a good contingency plan. But if that player is sitting on the bench in the Super Bowl and you lose because Alan Lazard dropped a pass that Marvin Harrison would have caught, we're going to be pissed. And with that being said, like that guy is going to be on the bench. And how much better is Fatanu better than Donovan Smith or Bakhtiari this year? And I know that people, again, overhype draft picks a little bit. These guys have to develop. Fashanu is pretty raw. If you're telling me right now in a vacuum, one game, assuming health, he's going to be healthy for that whole game, Bakhtiari or Fashanu for the game, I'm taking Bakhtiari. Now, maybe I wouldn't take Donovan Smith, but even Donovan Smith to Fashanu. In that year one, how big is that drop-off? As compared to, again, the drop-off between Fashanu and Donovan Smith, Bakhtiari, Bakhtiari is better than him. I would say Donovan Smith is probably worse than him at this point if I had to guess in his rookie year. Now the difference between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Lazard. I don't know, so Sabo and Wayne don't seem so hot with Marvin Harrison last time I checked their show 2 weeks ago. Yeah, but I don't want to put words in Sabo's mouth. I don't know how much they've watched in terms of his in terms of his actual game film. I don't think he has. So Matt Houston says, I love the idea of trading up, but are the Chargers or Giants going to pass up on one of these studs to pick up a second rounder next year's draft? Yeah, no, it's obviously a question, right? Like you have to have 2 to tango. But with that being said, the Chargers have quite the shitty roster right now. So like, do you want to build it back up? Does one player change a franchise right now, or is that a team who wants to build depth? If the Jets were, let's say, in a Chargers spot, or let's just say the Jets were, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers this year, or whatever it may be, or they were let's just say they're more of like a mediocre team, like kind of stuck in that dead zone. Would I want to trade up? No, like I would want to build the roster out. But right now, the Jets, they need, in my opinion, one legitimate starter or starting level player. And if you could trade up and fill that with an absolute stud, you can address depth. McGovern's going to cost you $2 million. I'm happy with him as a backup. Bakhtiari, whatever it's going to be, $4, $5, $6 million incentives, whatever that's going to be, I'm happy with him as a backup. You could sign, the safety room. You don't have to add to it. Let's just say we don't add to it. Okay, so now you have guard, tackle. You could sign Kareem Hunt, Zeke, whoever you want to sign for $2-3 million and draft the guy. And then boom, mostly our holes are filled. So it's not like we have a barrage of holes and needs for the Jets. So like it's, oh my God, we're trading these picks. We need to fill out the roster. It's like, no, you don't. Like you could sufficiently fill out backup tackle, guard, running back with a total of $7, $8, $9 million, in free agency. So because of that, we're not going to trade up for what might be a generational player, or even neighbors who might cost you not that first, but a second and a fourth, and you're still getting what to me is a stud. What's up, JB? What's up, Superfam? Sean says, do you think we'll grab a running back? And if so, yeah. If so, would you grab it at 3 or 4? I like Isaac Guerrero in the 4th. I'm not going to speak on these guys and say I know these guys because I don't. Now drafting a running back in the 4th, 3rd might be a little bit early, but listen, if it's a guy I know people love, like Trey Benson or whatever his name is, if it's going to be an absolute stud, like I'm okay with it, because again, the Jets don't have a lot of holes. And if that player, that running back too, is going to see the field 15, 20, 25% of the time, let him be a stud. I'm completely okay with that. And running backs turnover so much, having good depth is actually, it's obviously a great thing. So I would probably stay away at 72, even though I could see it. But yeah, one of the 4ths, a 5th, a 6th, I draft the running back. I am of the mindset of drafting a running back every year because they hit so often. Sign a guy for $2 million, whoever that may be, who's out there. Draft the running back in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and you're done. Again, sign McGovern, sign Bakhtiari. Then what's a huge need after all that stuff? Receiver. Would you like to fill that with an A+ prospect? I would. I personally would. Matt says, I think Rome could be a stud if he works just a couple of things. He's actually, he could actually wind up. Yeah, no, he has the upside to be the best receiver in the draft. He has to work on a few things, a few things for sure. Like his third and fourth steps. If you watch the reviews, you want some more commitment to stop steps and things like that. He pivots a little bit early on back breaks. Like there's some minor things he needs to work on. The release is the massive thing he needs to work on though. Like that's something I have massive question marks about, but that's really my only big question with him. If he rounds that out, man, he is a ridiculous contested catch guy, which works amazingly with Rodgers. So older, near your 40s. Oh, I thought you were younger than me. Okay. This is probably the only all-in year the future cap looks real ugly. Yeah, Tony. And like, again, I get wanting to build for the future. Like we want to be a better team for the future, but in terms of us going forward all and winning the Super Bowl, Marvin Harrison Jr. might be that difference where, again, that late first round tackle next year might not even matter. That this trade down for some of these guys might not even matter. Again, trade down, get Guyton and a receiver in the second. Like, yeah, sure, that's great. Like I would like to fill the depth at tackle with some young upside guys. But again, how much better is Guyton than Donovan Smith or Bakhtiari? Probably, if any, not any at all. Or maybe no. If he is better, it's slight and probably not at all. Definitely not better than Bakhtiari, even Donovan Smith again, Guyton, whoever it may be. And then you're talking about, okay, long term, yes, that's better to have the younger guy. But in terms of all in year, we have a guy who would be just as good as that late first round pick. And then you're going from Corley or whoever we're all talking about in the second round, versus Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Neighbors. I get the long term smart thing to do is to build for like sustainable success, but I'm kind of of the mindset like let's just go for it, man. Super chat from Marvin says, sorry, this is off topic, but think they should examine OJ's brain for CTE. Yeah, Aaron Hernandez had it, I think. Yeah, I'm sure he had it. Especially in the era he played in. I'm sure they'll do some type of test, but yeah, why not? It's an unfortunate part of football, but it is what it is. But I can almost guarantee that he has some type of CTE. You see guys who have that and they're not making the most rash of decisions. And I don't want to put my opinion of OJ on you guys, but he has not made the most rash of decisions throughout his life. We see it clearly affect guys. Guys die in their 50s. We see Antonio Brown is fully embracing it with CTE SPN. So. Yeah, I would imagine they would test his brain out, Marvin, and I appreciate the super chat. Could have been why he did it. No, not why he did it, but one of the leading things. Where was I? Oh, actually, let me see that. Let me see that poll. How do you see? I don't know. How do you see the poll results? Damn, I can't bring it back up. Why can I not bring it back up in the chat? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Solo is 55%. Okay, still pretty close. I'll leave it up. I'm going down the chat. You guys are funny. There's some things I'm not gonna pull up, but okay, there we go. We're back. We're gonna look like such dumbasses if we implode again and miss the playoffs. Oh well, yeah. Then there's just time to pack it up, right? John Hassel says, "Yo, Joe, wouldn't trading up for Greg Dortch solve our receiver issue, or the Canadian beer just not that much better?" I'm not sure if I'm picking up what you're putting down here, John. Trading up for Greg Dortch trading for. Or is Canadian beer just that much better? Yeah. I'm not going to say that Greg Dortch is going to fill our receiver holes. Again, it's about quality of filling it. I think mock drafts has kind of like desensitized people to the quality that you're filling each positional need with. That like a hole filled is a hole filled, and that's not how I look at it. I much rather have receiver 3, really receiver 2, be Marvin Harrison over Greg Dortch. So yeah, technically, I guess it fills the need, but again, quality of how you're filling it. I feel like it'll definitely take next year's first to trade up even for Neighbors. Yeah, but if they trade up next year's first, their like really significantly outdoing like the trade chart. I know the trade chart doesn't necessarily always correlate, but it's not like they're trading up for a quarterback, so it's not like they're going to be bent over a barrel. I don't think. I don't think it would cost a first, Matt. And just a difference of opinion, I think it would cost a second and some change, even if it's a second and a third. So it's a lot, but like a second and a third, I would think it'd be like a second, a fourth, and like a sixth or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but in terms of the trade value chart, 10 to 6, it's not like we're trading up for JJ McCarthy or anything. So, did I watch the NFL podcast with the owner of Reception Perception? He loves the Dunes and wide receiver class overall. He's low on a few guys. Good watch. Check it out. I have not, but yeah, maybe I will check that out. Snowball, I'm done with the pre-draft talk. Can we talk about new uniforms or something? White helmets with Kelly. I don't think it's gonna be Kelly Green. I think it's gonna be the kind of the green they had last year, but just with the design they had in the 90s and stuff. I am done with it too. Snowball, it's terrible. Like on Twitter, people, and I said it on Cool Your Jets, which by the way I was on that. So go check out Cool Your Jets podcast. We did like an hour and 40-minute podcast last night. So it's just funny to me that people, again, I know some people do their research, but then there's other people who don't, who have done, again, maybe collective 5, 10, 15 minutes of research. I'm not saying everybody, but there are definitely people who've done 5, 10 minutes of research and are legitimately willing to get in fistfights over prospects. It's wild to me how people will blindly defend people because of, again, highlights and scouting reports. But it is what it is. It's why I don't really, there's a lot of people like on Twitter that come at whatever, like some of the stuff, and it's just like, I'm not even going to answer. Happy Friday to you, Captain K Techno. It's a joke. No, I get it. I get it. The Canadian beer is, I'm not gonna lie, John. I haven't really had many Canadian beers that I overly enjoy, though. Maybe I'm a little bit of a snob, like being in like Germany. It's like, I don't think anybody's gonna beat Germany beer. Going to Germany and then going to Ireland, I was severely disappointed in Ireland's beer. It's like Smithwick's, Guinness, maybe 2 or 3 other options, and that's about it. Every place we went for beer in Germany, the list of beers was like 4 pages long, and all of them were like absurdly amazing. So I was a little bit disappointed in Ireland. I'm sorry for the Irish people out there. A little bit disappointed. Germany, it is what it is. When I get the GM job, you're hired. I appreciate that. Our next year's first will be pick 32 if we get neighbors. Exactly. Like, I'm not saying exactly like 100% lock, right? But we're going to assume the Jets are going to get pretty deep. If they're healthy with that offensive line, with neighbors, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Brees, Conklin, dude. Again, and we're getting our panties in a bunch over a 4th-round pick who might be Max Mitchell. Mike says, "Yo, what is up, Joe? I've been really enjoying your work lately." I appreciate that, Mike. And it's only like 5 out of the 30 reviews I've dropped. So if we're talking about like the actual film reviews, I appreciate that. Or just in general, I have a lot more coming. That's like I've cooked up already. I just got to actually hit record and record it. I was thinking about releasing, like, I have Sherwood review again, Ashton Davis, Tony Adams, some like lesser guys, Carter Warren, Will McDonald. I just don't feel like releasing them now is smart because it's like 2 weeks before the draft, and nobody gives a shit about Jamie and Sherwood right now. People don't really in general, but people will care more when they're bored in July than they'll care 2 weeks before the draft, So I know what the trade chart says. I just don't think any of the teams in front of us would make the trade for that. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. Nobody knows. Harp is an excellent Irish excellent Irish lager. I don't know if I've had Harp. Like Polliner, there's some really good like Wasibers there. I like wheat beers. I like ambers. I'm not a big like citrusy guy. Like the citrusy IPAs, I think it tastes like cough medicine. It's terrible. So anytime I see like citrus fruity blend of apricots, like some shit like that, whatever it is, just give me like a good amber wheat beer, dark beer, Guinness, something. But the fancy micro brew, fruity × 2 citrus splash, I hate that shit. Just give me beer, please. Saint said, the more I watch Fatano, the more I'm convinced he's a Jet and everyone is going to like it. I would still have to do some work into him. I could say that based on my limited watching of Fatano, I would not be thrilled at 10. Joe, you're talking about trading up to 8 or 5. How I would trade up to 5. If you're telling me right now, side of the dotted line, this year's first, next year's first for Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5, sign me up. Sign me up. That's just how I feel about it. Again, people are obsessed with draft picks. That pick 32 could be Kyle Wilson, could be Quentin Coples. Now, it could be a good player. The Jets, I have more faith in Douglas than the GMs who are making those picks, but still, even if he's average, they're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. here. I don't know. Save the team recaps for summer. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm happy we took care of Ashton Davis. He's a really good football player and homegrown. Yeah, I think the re-signing is more for special teams. Now, like he had three picks last year, right? One of them by Mahomes was a really bad throw. He was just going into his curl to flat, gained some depth, picked it off. Again, realistically, like talking about plus player, just a play you should make. It was a play he should have made. He had a pick in the Pats game where Mac Jones just chucked it up deep. He jumped it, picked it. Okay. And then there was another one. I think Josh Allen chucked it up before the end of the first half. He picked it off. So a lot of it was like Hail Mary type situations, or just like chuck ups. It's not like he was, overly like responsible for them. He's kind of his right place, right time. So some of his turnover luck has been luck. Just transparently based on what I watched the entire season just to kind of remember what he did. So I like Ashton Davis, but again, if you're telling me, hey, Ashton Davis is going to play 10 games as a starter because Clark went down, am I happy with that? No. Like, I think he's okay depth. I don't think he's like top notch level depth. So, I would wait till after the draft to release this. It's got a long dead period coming after it's done. Yeah. And the benefit is, like, I have so many reviews done, Mike, that I'm pretty much going to record the draft class guys. And then it's all about just getting on here and clicking, record. So Murdog, my man, Joey Breakdown's finally able to catch the show live today somehow. I don't get notifications anymore, but bro, we got to talk. Yeah, I don't know how long you've been missing, Murdog, but we said quite a few things on this channel in the last couple of months. Some things I would say relatively controversial, just because I feel like people typically stay in the same lanes as each other on social media. We've been going a little bit against the grain with some of the draft stuff, so it's always interesting. Always interesting here. And I don't know why people don't get notifications. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Fatanu comment. Can you coach up a player? I think coaching and scouting is completely different. I think there's things that you could look for, but in terms of how to actually coach it out of a player, no. If you really had to say, like, hey, in whatever world, in whatever alternate universe this is, would you feel you had more success as a coach or a scout? I would say scout than coach, because I don't know drills and all that stuff to work these things out. I can identify a problem, or I think I can. Now actually coaching out of a guy, all the player relations stuff, no. Matt says, I haven't watched Marvin Harrison Jr. at all because I just assumed he'd be out of reach, but maybe I should do some catch up to see if he's worth. Yeah. Go ahead. I've done a little bit, and what I've seen on him, I've really, really liked. Now, shitty situation. The Jets trade up that first, and I watch him like, oh my God, I really wish they didn't do that. I don't think that's going to happen based on my watching of him. I think he's a stud. I think Neighbors is a stud too. I'm going to record that show tomorrow. If you need to be convinced you want to trade up for him, watch the show tomorrow. In terms of, and this is somewhere I disagree with Sabo. I believe he said something to the effect of, getting a guy like Neighbors, like you have to play him in the slot. Neighbors played all over at LSU to my remembrance, and he could take the top off the defense. He could beat press coverage. So can he play Z? Can he play X? Yes, in my opinion. I don't think that locks Garrett Wilson into the slot. Actually, I think it gives you more versatility than a guy like Roma Dunze would give you. So yeah, I'll definitely give up next year's first for Harrison. Exactly. Okay, there you go. Yes, because we lost Hardy to specialists on free agents, which I was going to get to. Mentioned that I have some like notes of things I missed in the last couple of weeks, and losing Hardy. I like Hardy, but at the end of the day, that $3 million is he? How much better is he truly than Ashton Davis? How much? And I should maybe go back and watch Ashton Davis's special team snaps, but I just don't feel like doing it. I feel like seeing what he actually offers the defense in terms of base 11, or the 11 on the actual defense. So you have Davis, you got Oliver. The only thing with Oliver, I watched him. I'm pretty sure he was never a gunner for the Niners. So I don't think he replaces Hardy as a gunner. You have Irv Charles, who made quite a few plays, and Hardy had quite a few penalties too. It's like Hardy's good, but $3 million for a guy who's getting penalties, and like, yeah, he's solid, but, and I know our special teams numbers took a hit, but if you could save that money, and that's the difference of getting, a backup running back, then I'd rather spend the money elsewhere. I do. Who would give up Marvin Harrison Jr. for a 10th pick this year and a likely late pick next year? Harrison Jr. is considered generational talent. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that they should, but you never know. A team like the Chargers, if they're trying to build this out for the long term, then I can understand the thinking. I maybe wouldn't do it if I was them, but Harrison's maybe the dream where Neighbors might be more realistic, where it's a second and a fourth instead of a first. But you're telling me right now, again, pick 5, first round pick next year for Harrison Jr. I'm doing it. Sean says, what are your thoughts on Will McDonald? Is he going to be a first round pick? We hope he could be. Yeah. So I watched him. I have a review releasing of him again in the summer, whenever I actually get to hitting record, but I recorded all the plays. I was happy with what I saw in limited snaps for McDonald. He had some good pressures. He had some good sacks. He has good bend. He has surprising strength for his size. He has some power in his punch. So I actually thought Will McDonald was solid last year. Now obviously the Jets didn't want to bank on him being like the rusher in a Super Bowl or bust year, and I understand that. So I don't think it directly correlates like, hey, bringing in Reddick means Will McDonald sucks now. I don't think that's the case, So I've been catching the shows, but not live. Oh, okay. There you go, Murdoch. So I've been talking to you. You just haven't been talking back to me. You just can't respond. RJ says if Vikes aren't able to trade up for JJ McCarthy, would you want to trade a 10th, a 4th, and a 2025 first for 11 and 23, two firsts in an all-in year? Damn, that's a no, right? Because like the belief is that, and I don't think this is necessarily true. I don't agree with this like to the T, but a pick this year is worth a pick down in next year. It's like a second this year is a third next year, or sorry, yeah, right. A third round pick this year is worth a fourth next year, and so on. So I don't think it's enough. 10 in next year's first for 11 and 23. Even it wouldn't be something I would do. 2 firsts for 2 firsts. Like you never know. Like what if that? No, it's not enough. It's not enough for me, RJ. Wide receiver raises the ceiling of the offense more, gives Rodgers a chance to win MVP. Would love to see the high-powered offense for once. So that's a good point, Javon. It's all right, I think I'm saying that right, Jovan. Harrison Jr. raises the ceiling, but I get people saying that the tackle raises the floor. I get one to raise the floor, but does raising the floor also limit the ceiling of the Super Bowl? Like you might need Marvin Harrison Jr. on that third down to catch that back shoulder ball to beat the Chiefs where, again, Fatanu is sitting on the bench and then Allen Lazard drops it. Like it could be that difference. It's a game of millimeters. Marvin Harrison Jr. could legitimately put you over the top. Again, I get the tackles kind of greatening the floor, but in an ideal world, if Tyron Smith stays as healthy as he's been in the playoffs, knock on wood, Morgan Moses stays as healthy as he's been throughout his career for the most part, that guy's going to be sitting on the bench, So NFL is doing what the XFL is doing with special teams in this coming season, right? Yeah, it's for kickoffs, and I should know the exact rules. I know that if you kick it out and you don't give them a chance to return it, like you go to the 30 or the 35. So basically, it's incentivizing teams to kick it inbounds, so they can tackle them basically before the 35. But now instead of getting like 25 yards of build up before they collide. Now it's like I think the players are standing 10 yards apart, so there's less of a buildup in terms of, again, just running full speed and colliding. Now it's more of just, okay, you're going to meet at like 5 yards each and then block each other. So I think it's going to limit concussions in that way, but also add some excitement because you're actually going to see returns instead of seeing 9 go out of the back of the end zone and then 1 return. It's going to actually add some value to special teams. Now I think it changes a little bit of like who you want as a special teams guy. I feel like punt returner, kick returner aren't so different now. Punt returner, obviously, typically as you catch the ball, there's guys in your face. So it's more about shiftiness and quicks than it really is straight line speed. Whereas, in the past with kickoffs, at the NFL level, it was guys who are long striders, could be even bigger guys, Cordell Patterson, Josh Cribbs, not necessarily the shiftiest, but pretty damn fast. Devin Hester, obviously shifty as well. But I feel like the new rules have lessened the line of like a kick return or punt return. I think one can do both now, because it's more about shiftiness at this point, because you're going to be avoiding blocks quicker on, in my opinion. We'll see how it actually works out, but only person's opinions we're allowed to repeat as our own on Twitter is yours. No, don't even do that though. Like if you agree with me, but I shouldn't be like the only source. I don't think. Maybe. No, I'm kidding. I was at WrestleMania 40 wearing my Sam Darnold jersey and my Jets cap, and the Eagles fans threw a beer at me. Okay. Where was WrestleMania? I'm assuming it was in Pennsylvania. There's only a few stadiums that like I'm going to be a little bit nervous to wear my jersey in. Like not like it's not even because like, oh, I'm nervous to get punched in the face. Like nobody wants to get punched in the face, but the problem is like with my job, I can't get assaults and stuff like that. Obviously, like I would lose my job. So it's more about me not even wanting to have to deal with the drunk asshole who wants to fight. And places like Philly, San Fran, you've heard a little bit of. You see a lot of fights with like the Chargers and LA. So anywhere like LA, you have a little bit obviously in Philly. Those are places where like I might just rock like a black shirt, type of deal and enjoy the game just because I don't want to get stabbed. I don't feel like getting stabbed there. Maybe I'll go to like LA and all in San Fran and the Eagles after I raise my kids. So if I get stabbed and die, it doesn't really matter as much, but now if I die, it's a problem, so maybe we'll wait till I'm like 55, 60 to go some of these places. But that's unfortunate. Now, are you 100% free of blame here, Tim? I would say no. That's just me. Maybe you shouldn't wear a Sam Darnold jersey. No, obviously slightly kidding. If I'm giving up a 25 first, it's after we trade down Tippmann, left tackle. Tippmann's never played tackle, so we do not want to do that. We do not want to play Tippmann at tackle. He was good at center and guard. Let's just keep him there. So I'm not going to agree with you there, Tony the GM. Appreciate you responding to my stuff, Joe. We totally agree. We need Hassan to make sure our D was ready. Can't go out there with question marks at edge, especially for a team who like really emphasizes it. So I don't think it's a lack of confidence in Will McDonald. It's just they like to stack that group, and they lost one of the better edge rushers in the league. And at this point, I don't think it's unfair to say that we don't know if Will McDonald could be one of the best edge rushers in the league. So in a Super Bowl or bust year, they decided to be safe and get a stud. Now, I don't think it's an indictment on Will McDonald. It's like, oh my God, now he sucks. It's like, no, Reddick's a really good player. Like, that's all it is. I'm going to be so crazy here. Stupid autocorrect. Okay, let's see. How much better are the big three receivers compared to the wide receiver we can get in the second round or third round? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm a Jet Super fan. I could say that receivers are always deep. I think this class may be, I'm not gonna say it's overhyped, but I think that receiver classes are going to be deep and continue to be deep as years go on, just because of the way that the college game is played and how emphasized receivers are on offenses. So yeah, like there could be a bunch of guys in the second, third round who could be good, but are they going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like that's the question you're asking, and I don't know. I could tell you that I've watched Marvin Harrison Jr. a little bit, and I've watched obviously Neighbors, full through his entire season, and I'm willing to trade up. That's all I could say. Fatigue Z says, I'm here. What's up, Joe? What is up, Fatigue? Sorry for burping in the mic. Are you concerned about ABT not being the same player? Achilles is RJ, no doubt, right? How could you not be? You have one of the most serious injuries in the NFL, and now we're asking him to be the same player. Maybe he's only average this year. Maybe it takes him a year to bounce back. Now, ABT is not a play. I don't think he thrived off of athleticism. ABT is an athletic player, but he thrives on more so just being very technically savvy and smart. It's not a thing where like, oh, you take his athleticism away, he's going to be shit. Now, obviously, you don't want to take away anybody's athleticism, but it's more he's more great because of his technique. Now, could it hurt him? Obviously it could. He's going to go from a plus athlete to maybe a not plus athlete. Yeah, it could hurt for sure. I'm nervous. I'm not like saying, oh, ABT is some top 10 lock stud at right guard. It's like, no, you need depth because ABT's been injured. Tippmann looked good last year, but he's going into his second year. Simpson was solid last year, or he was okay for the Ravens, but still a relative question mark. Like, go get McGovern. I think McGovern would be a great backup, a swing guy in the interior. Yeah, be careful in Philly. The gang from Patty's Pub will F you up. I actually didn't watch that show for quite a while, Matt. Always Sunny. And then I just started watching it relatively recently, like within the last couple of months, maybe a year. And I slowly watch. I probably watch like an episode every like 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm slowly catching up. The last one I just watched was I forget the hell happened. They were on a cruise ship and they like thought they died or whatever it was. It's like season 3 or 4. That's the last one I watched. It's freaking that show is hilarious. The episode where they somehow get into like the hillbillies, like the inbred people's trailer, and I think Charlie like slips the other dude, the Danny DeVito, like shrooms. That's not shrooms, it's acid or whatever it is. Like some of those episodes are fucking hilarious, dude. Tippmann left guard, JPG center, ABT right guard, Latham right tackle, Sine free agent. You're talking about for next year? You're talking about for next year. But so you're saying Latham being obviously on the bench this year. I don't see a reason why you can't re-sign Tyron Smith after this year. If he's going to be healthy and he's going to do what we expect him to do, play 13, 14 games, be healthy for the playoffs, why not sign him? Why can't we re-sign Moses? Moses is 33, 34 years old. You can have a tackle good until 34, 35, 36. Now, maybe depending on this year, his play, if he regresses a little bit, then maybe you need a little bit more of like a better swing option because you're not so confident in Morgan Moses. But who's to say Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses aren't our tackles next year as well? If you had one choice, interior offensive lineman or tackle in round 1, it's tackle. It's tackle for sure because I have more. It's just more valuable. It's more valuable, and I would say that there's a lack of depth at tackle, less so than guard. Even though we only have Schweitzer, right? It's a hard question to answer. We're in a shitty spot with both of them, really, in terms of depth. But tackle's more important, so I'd get tackle. It's hard to get tackles too. You can get, like, if you're, let's say the Jets are 30th pick next year, 32nd pick, you could probably get a pretty good interior offensive lineman there. The chances of you getting like some stud tackle late first, early second is obviously, I think it drops much quicker than guard. So I would say tackle. Joe, have you had to try the fireman Ed Lager yet? I'm using this platform to publicly challenge Sauce Gardner to a bowling match, best out of 3. Okay, yeah, you really like jump topics there, Snowball. I have, because they sent me like a little gift bag or whatever. They sent me a gift bag, so I tried it. It kind of just tasted like Miller. Like it was I don't want to speak bad about it. It was like a very generic beer, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I think they sent me a 4-pack, so I think I pounded a couple at the game or gave them to somebody. Maybe I think I drank one and then we shotgunned the other 3. Like me and 2 other people shotgun. I think that's what happened. So yes, I have had it. Decent. It's okay. And then I'm using this platform to publicly challenge Sauce. Like Sauce is, I love him. I would wish he turned back the social media just a little bit because he's very reactionary to like other people's opinions and stuff. Like I wish he left some like trolls alone. So he gets a little bit too much into the trolls and stuff like that. And then he kind of, it seems like he hangs around like really popular streamers and stuff. And I'm sure they're not out for his best interest. They're in it for clicks and likes and all that type of shit. So I wish he dialed it back a little bit, but it is cool that like he absolutely destroys people in Call of Duty. Like not only is he a elite football player, the second best cornerback in football, but he also dominates people in Call of Duty. He dominates people in Madden. He dominates people in I think he plays Fortnite a lot too. So like Sauce is fun. Sauce is definitely fun. Bowling, I cannot attest. I know I saw him bowl with Ashton Davis one time. They're buddies. They're good. I know they're like brothers in terms of like their Call of Duty stuff, bowling. I think they went like go-kart racing and stuff. So I think Sauce and Davis are actually pretty close. So it's cool that they re-signed one of Sauce's good friends. Bowling match, best out of 3. I want to assume you lose, Snowball. Typically, when you have like really good stud athletes, they're good at everything they do. Odell Beckham was a guy like that, like really good receiver, can hit a home run righty lefty. Like he was pretty crazy. We already signed a free agent left tackle. Yeah, that doesn't mean we can't sign another one. I'm not sure if that's what you mean necessarily, but why can we not sign another one? We can sign 2, to my understanding. Ben Blessington, the one half of the Cool Your Jets podcast. Again, go and subscribe to them and If you only listen to one episode, listen to the one we did last night. Other than that, I don't know. Which current offensive player would you have the best chance to succeed on a defense and vice versa? Cromartie. Oh my God. Like which guy could play both sides of the ball well? I don't know, man. Which current offensive player would have the best chance? Are you talking about? So is this a Jets question or a league question? Clarify for me, Ben, because my mind like immediately went to like Micah Parsons type of players. But if it's just the Jets, I would have to think a little bit more. So give me Jets or just overall. Chris says OT insurance policy at 10 is top priority. Rodgers can do more with average receivers with time than good receivers and no time. Yeah, if you're assuming the worst, yes, you are correct. And people will say that, yeah, well, look at Lazard. Like he made Lazard a bad receiver look average. Well, if he could do that with Lazard, a bad receiver look average, what can he make a good receiver look like? So like he's like he's a force multiplier. So I get that. Like, yeah, you can't throw from on his back, but at the same time, like you're saying, or like I was saying before, how much better is Fatanu than Bakhtiari this year? Like that's the question I'm asking in terms of like filling it. Now, again, long term, yes, get the tackle. Like I understand that thinking, but again, for this year, how much better is that player than Bakhtiari? Charles Henderson says Douglas needs to free up some money and sign Justin Simmons. Well, I know right now they're basically, and this is assuming this is considering the draft class. Oh, sorry, actually, hold on, let me go to this. I did not see that, Marvin. Super chats do go first, but I appreciate the $10. Can you comment on Hackett being OC and calling plays when he was with AR and Green Bay and LaFleur calling plays? Think Jets will get someone to call? No, yeah, they'll get Rodgers. Really, Marvin, that's what it is. Like I'm sure Hackett can call a play in the huddle, and then if Rodgers comes to the line, he sees something he doesn't like, he's going to change it. So I think Hackett makes suggestions, but really who has final say in what play is being run, it's Rodgers. Like Rodgers is our OC. It's almost like Rodgers is the OC, Hackett's a consultant. Like that's really what it's going to be. And I don't think there's anybody who you're going to bring in who's going to tell Rodgers what to do or understand the offense this quickly. So it's almost at this point like, hey, he's going to take it over, let him take it over. I don't think there's anybody else who's going to come in here and tell Rodgers what to do. So in my mind, Hackett's more of a consultant, but yeah, I appreciate the super chat for sure. Go back up a little bit. Yeah, but in terms of freeing up money, Charles, I know he could free up so the Jets are at negative $2 million right now. This is about that. This is assuming the draft class is signed and all that. And that's saying the draft class costs like $9 or $10 million, which I think, I don't know the exact numbers. I know they're about at negative $2 million right now. They could save another like $13 to $14 million by restructuring JFM and extending Reed. So that's my idea. You can extend JFM, move the money around. However you do that, you renegotiate, restructure with JFM, extend Reed, because why not? Now we're sitting at, let's say, $10 million in effective cap space to use. McGovern, $2 million. Bakhtiari, let's just say 4. That's you're up to $6 million. Sign a backup running back, $2 million. Sign another depth safety, $2 million. That's the $10 million. All of our holes are filled. You trade up that next year's first and this year's first for frickin' Marvin Harrison Jr. and let's roll. MN10 NM. MN10 NM. Do you have a big board? I do. I will be going over it next week. Again, transparently. I can't watch everybody in the draft because my reviews I watch their entire seasons and then do 2-hour shows on them. I couldn't do it for the first round because I have a full-time job and I have a wife that I want to keep. I also have a son that I want to keep. So I cannot do everybody. So my big board is relatively small. I did make a 12-person big board. I think I did 8 of the players in terms of like actual reviews. But I added another like 3 or 4 guys. So I'm kind of hearing about, so I made a big board of 12 that I do want to talk about next week. Sean says, have you looked into any of the Canadian? No, I haven't. I just started. I like the one guy, Theo Benedette. Interesting story. Yeah. I haven't looked at like half the people in the first round. I'm not into the CFL yet, Sean. Again, it's just, it's time allocation. I do the guys who I think the Jets will grab in the first, and then past that, I have like 16 Jet reviews cooked. Again, Sauce, JJ, Quincy, Q, Conklin. I have a bunch of reviews coming, so I focused on that instead of focusing on realistically. Let's say I did 30 guys in the first round. I just wasted time on 29 guys in terms of knowing Jet players. I want to know the Jets as best I possibly can, So, would you ever teach people to watch film on the side, like hold a class for each position group? I'd pay for that. Maybe like I don't know. I don't know if I'm like good enough to do that, honestly. Maybe like me when I'm retired, RJ, when I'm retired at like 50, 51, 52 years old, check in with me. I'm going to be doing a lot more because I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands. I don't plan on like working after I'm done. But I plan on doing this. I'll do a lot more. I'll have a lot more info about the draft. I'll be a lot more gray at 51, 52, but I'm going to be much more present because that's going to be my only thing I do is reviewing first round prospects and all this stuff. And unless obviously we're assuming that it's going to be flag football, I don't care about it anymore, but, catch me in 20 years. Ask me that question in 20 years, RJ. Now, no way. I don't have enough time. That's all. I appreciate that you value my opinion that highly. As soon as the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was like, I can't wait for the Always Sunny day. Yeah, I don't think I'm there yet. But it's definitely a funny show. It's definitely good. Matt A says, what are your thoughts on Brian Thomas Jr. over Odunze? I have only watched Brian Thomas Jr. in passing while watching Neighbors. I wouldn't do it. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is intriguing because of like height, weight, speed type deal. But in terms of like being refined, I think Odunze is more refined. And then in terms of like contested catchability, I think he is leaps and bounds better than really anybody I've watched recently in that aspect. Minus Drake London. Like Drake London and Odunze are probably the top two players in the last like 5 years I can think about like contested catch wise. So yeah, I'm not taking Brian Thomas Jr. over Odunze. Now again, I could go back and watch Brian Thomas Jr. not in passing and be like, oh, I was actually really, really impressed with Brian Thomas Jr. But right now, gun to my head, it's definitely Odunze. It's definitely. There was somebody named Sauce in one of my COD lobbies the other day. I wonder. I don't know if is it just Sauce? I don't know. I used to play Call of Duty a lot, Matt. Unfortunately, Call of Duty, one, I'm busy, wife now and kids. I was playing Call of Duty a lot when I was a sophomore in high school and no responsibilities, no girlfriend, no kid, obviously. I loved Call of Duty 4. Like I think that out of my all-time favorite games at the time I was playing them, Call of Duty 4 is probably my favorite. And obviously I have like Rampage and stuff on N64, but Call of Duty 4, I was a straight nerd for, and I loved it. But then Call of Duty, and that was more like bum rushing. Like I like running in with MP5s and shotguns and actually like fighting. I don't like walking around a map and there's snipers and there's guys you walk into a building, they're hiding behind 14 barrels up on a crate, and then they shoot you as soon as you walk in. Like I don't like the camping aspect of Call of Duty. I don't have the patience for it. So you're not going to catch me on Call of Duty anymore. You might catch me on like Gears of War. I like running in and destroying people with a shotgun, not camping and going 2-0 and getting my KD up. Like I don't have the patience for that shit. Ben says Jets question only. So who has the best chance to succeed on the opposite side of the ball? Offensive lineman, no. Running backs, no. My immediate thought is Garrett Wilson. Sauce could be a receiver, but I don't know. I would say Garrett Wilson, and there's really no reason for it. It's like not like, oh, because he's this or that. I think if you put Garrett Wilson at corner, he might do a pretty good job. Like he's super explosive, or like safety, a little bit aggressive. I would say Garrett Wilson probably the best overall like athlete, like explosive athlete on the Jets. So I'd probably pick him. I could see like Hassan Reddick playing tight end, but I don't think so. Yeah, I would say Garrett. Like receiver corner are pretty close. Like going from DN to tight end is like a completely different ball game. So I would say Garrett if I had to. Q at guard, Garrett Wilson at corner. Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson at corner is probably number one. So, how is Ben Blessington not a mod? He is just X Factor. Someone throw him a wrench. Well, it's because Ben's like never really been in here. So let me see. Can I do that? No, hold on. Chat's moving down. Chat is moving down. I can't do it. Let me give him a wrench. Am I able to? No. I can put him in timeout. I could do that. I don't know how to give him a wrench here. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, add as moderator. I can do that. Managing moderator, standard, can manage block word. Yeah, sure, whatever. There you go. Ben's a moderator. If you're gonna be in here, Ben, at any times. By the way, the solo to call-in votes is 51 solo to 49 call-in. So I'm gonna keep it up for the rest of the stream, and legitimately, wherever it finishes is what I'm gonna do, at least for now. Again, if you're here late, I'm gonna have a 4-week rotation of Sabo 1 week, Nania 1 week, hoping for a third. And then that fourth show is either going to be solo or call-in. So I want to get your guys' opinions on what you'd rather have me do. Again, solo, I get to the chat a lot more. Call-ins, you guys can call in, but for the people who are only chat, I'm not going to be able to interact as much. So, yeah. Ben, I'm still expecting you to be classy and a formal apology on your next podcast. I'm not on. It's okay. We'll wait. Quinnen was as a goal line fullback and Sauce, like Sheldon Richardson style. Sauce at wide receiver, interesting. Yeah, Sauce I think Sauce is a little bit too like lanky for receiver. Like he would get really, really pressed badly. I would say Garrett at corner would be better than Sauce at receiver. Yeah. My concern would be the drop off in talent between receiver and offensive tackle from rounds 1 through 3. Jared, in terms of what do you mean exactly? Yeah, what do you mean exactly in terms of like your concern with the drop off? Like if you don't get a tackle at 10, you're concerned about the drop off to the third round, or if you don't get a receiver at 10, you're concerned about the drop off to the third round. Is that what you mean? Because that's I don't know how else you mean that, but yeah, it just becomes a thing where like, hey, let's say they get tackle at 10, right? Let's say it is JC Latham at 10. If they get JC Latham at 10 and they sign Tyler Boyd, are we okay? I think we're okay at that point. Like I'll take what's his face Boyd to be receiver 3, all day. Let's see. Oh, that's why. Okay. I was getting some Twitter notifications and I realized, okay, well, hey, if you want to go, oh, this is an article. Okay, sorry. Who did an article on my ranking Nania, new article ranking NY Jets top offensive tackles, draft targets in 5 vital categories. We talked about that last time on the stream. That's a good article, Nania. I'm going to read that and see if you got anything wrong. Well, Q does have the stiff arm, just ask Tyreek. Yes, he does. Okay. Totally understand, Joe. Sorry, we just changed it. No, dude. Bring any questions. Like at this point, one, like I feel like I know you guys. Well, at least I feel like you know me. You guys know me better than I know you because I just say what's ever on my mind and I interact with you guys. But I don't care about the question. Ask whatever question you want. Who would be the best? Who would eat the most out of the Jets? I'll have an answer. Something. I like kind of like random questions. Hopefully we're reminiscing about the Jets' multiple Super Bowl victories by the time you're 51. Yeah, 20 years. 20 years I'll be retired and doing a lot of Jets X Factor and wherever else we expand to, whatever else we do. So I've been asked this question a couple of times. Trey Gant, who was the Evan Neal this year? Big name, but you just don't see it. There is nobody that I think will ever match the disdain I had for Evan Neal in terms of like my opinion of him versus general media's opinion of him. Again, people I respect a lot were having him as a top 3 guy, and I wouldn't have taken him in the 3rd round. That's legit. You can go back and listen to me say that. And he's turned out to be a bust, at least as of now. Maybe he changes, which again, like, people can change. And if he changes his technique in the run game, he may actually be a decent player. But yeah, there's nobody that I'm saying is like a 1st round pick who should be a 4th round pick. Like I don't think that's ever going to happen again, transparently. But with that being said, like who am I lower on than the consensus? Bowers, I would say I'm lower on than the consensus. I would say Alt, I'm lower on than the consensus. Alt is my tackle 2 at this point. But he's like a 2A, 2B with Fashanu. Like if they were both at 10, again, people are thinking this is crazy because again, just whatever reason. I'm not saying you guys, but there's gonna be somebody in the comments like, "Oh, you fucking idiot! Alt's great." Okay. If they were both at 10 and the Jets took Fashanu over Alt, I would not lose my shit. That's how I'll say it. They're a 2A, 2B for me. Latham's my 1, 2A, Alt, 2B, but 3 Fashanu. I would say 4 is Fatanu because of a little bit of unknown with him. I think he could be a tackle where I think Fuanga is going to be a guard. So Yeah, I would say Joe Alt Bowers. Yeah, Joe Alton Bowers. Are you comfortable with Xavier Gibson being the Jets gadget guy? How much of a leap can we expect from him? I have no faith in Xavier Gibson. Realistically, he had a punt return touchdown the first game. He had a muff versus the Eagles. He had a muff versus the, I believe. He caught a nice pass or two like up the seam later on in the season, but in terms of actually putting any stock into his game, I think he could just as easily be on the roster than not. Realistically, yeah, he had some splashes, but we know him because we're Jets fans. We would not know him if we're anybody else. Like, I think Jets fans tend to overrate their guys, like some of their depth guys. And I'm not saying I don't like Gibbs or anything like that, but I'm not going to say that he should be a starter or even a gadget guy. Like, what did he prove last year in terms of being gadgety, shifty with the ball in his hands? Did he prove anything to you, Ben? To me, I wasn't. I don't watch him like, oh my God, he's a great gadget guy. He's so much speedy, so shifty. He's just kind of very generic guy. Tony, I feel like I'm wasting your money here, but I don't know Blake Fisher at 72. Again, so there's guys out there. I'll promote, Dom C. I know he does his work. Go to Dom C and ask him about Blake Fisher. I just don't have the time to evaluate that many players. I can't attest for how much time Dom puts in terms of like how many film reviews, how many games he put in. Like, is it a 2-game thing, a 4-game thing, a 5-game thing? I don't know. I feel like you have to watch at least probably minimum of like 4 games of a guy to get a good feel for them. 3-game sample size is just not enough for me. Like, I can give you 3 good games of Kyle Wilson. If you just happen to click on the wrong ones, you might think Kyle Wilson's a good player, So I don't know. I don't know. I will know if they take him at 72. I'll give you a very strong opinion, which is always interesting because people are, again, the Jets draft this guy. People don't really know him. They're gonna hype up their own players. Guys like Zach Kuntz, people were losing their shit about last year. I'm like, dude, this is like one of the worst contested catch guys I've ever seen. So it's never fun, speaking honestly, about the later round draft picks, especially if people are higher on them than they should be. Ben says, Michael Nani is a COD camper. Yeah, if that's true, I'm disappointed. It is what it is. But like at this point, you're kind of forced to camp in COD. I don't know about Joe, but I'm skeptical. Yeah, I'm skeptical too. What has he really proved? Unlimited power. Congrats, Ben. It's just he's. I don't know if Ben's on. I guess he's like technically JetX because he's on a JetX podcast, but he doesn't write for JetX or anything like that. So. How are call-ins not winning 100-0? It's Dana. I think it's really because like some people just don't like to call in and they rather have their chats answered. And like to a certain extent, there may be really good callers who add a lot of knowledge or who ask really good questions or there's a really good back and forth. But then there's undoubtedly going to be the guy who is an asshole and pours beer on himself or shotguns or whatever. Even though I'll let him do it. So it depends on like how much value. I don't know. It's kind of depending on what you like, but. How is not winning 100-0? I don't know. Happy tanking. Latham OT1, but Latham over Odunze, Marvin Harris, MH2, like Marvin Harrison Jr. or wide receiver 1. No. I'm definitely taking Harrison Jr. and Neighbors over Latham, undoubtedly. Latham over Odunze. I'm taking Latham over Odunze at 10. But that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think I'm going to change it. Like I would take Odunze over Fashanu at 10. And I think I would take Odunze over Alt at 10. Again, against the grain there. It is what it is. Stay true to what I Latham's the only guy I would take a tackle over Odunze. So that's, I guess, my top 4 of my big board is Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Latham, Odunze, probably. And I like Fashanu and Alt probably overall better as prospects than Odunze. It just one's going to play 65, 70% of the reps, maybe 80, maybe 100 in some games, where Fashanu may play 35% of the reps, if we stay at 10, rank them. Next week. That 1.4 million in cap space doesn't include Ashton Davis contract. Plus it only shows 51 players. You need to add, but they only take, I think I could be wrong here, Tony. I think they only take the top 51 players. The last 2 don't count against your cap number for whatever reason. Again, I'm not the best cap guy, so I don't know. But I believe, I think Ryan from Jets Talk did like a breakdown in terms of the actual cap space. I think it's right now like at negative $2 million with the draft class factored into that. So, but they can clear again a good 13, 14, $15 million just with the Reed and JFM, which I think are both good moves. Murdoch says bit torn on Odunze, probably would be an epic red zone jump ball guy, but if he can't separate against press in college, how will he separate in the NFL? It's a legit question. Murdoch, because he does not have a lot of releases. He's like a hop step release. He's a hop step, and that's really like I don't really remember like the other ones he usually uses. It's usually just a hop step. He pretty much just speed releases. He's not really setting guys up. He's not stemming guys. He's not short striding, foot firing, skip releases, rocker steps, whatever it may be. There's not a lot to his release game, so it's a massive question mark. But if he can get over that and be just an okay release guy, he's intriguing because he's an athlete and he is an absurd contested catch guy. So I'm torn on him too. But his upside is it's good. He could be really, really good. So could a guy like Bowers. Like Bowers could be really good too. It's just I have even more questions about Bowers than I do Odunze. Do the Jets need to draft a run stopper, D tackle early in the draft? I would say no. Like I would say that I think you could upgrade over Leaky Fotu, but I don't think that it's absolutely necessary. Like I prefer last year's Al Woods to this year's Leaky Fotu. And I think if you're looking at the defensive line right now and if you're projecting Kinlaw to be a primary rusher on third down, then I think there is a need at defensive tackle. Obviously I'm steering away from the run stuffing part of your question, Eagle. I think you could look at that and say, okay, there's a need, like there's somewhat of a need there, right? Like Quinn Williams and Kinlaw, obviously Quinn Williams, top 3 defensive tackle, top 5 defensive tackle. Kinlaw is a below average starter, based on his last year. I'm not thrilled with the signing. Could you, if you're looking at that, is that a need? Okay, I understand that. In my mind, the Jets are moving JFM to the interior on rush downs because let's say situation 1 where they're going to be stripped to JFM outside, then Kinlaw Q inside, and then at any time, two of JJ, Reddick, McDonald, JFM are sitting on the bench. You want JFM sitting on the bench because of Kinlaw? No, screw that. Kick Kinlaw out, JFM inside. And now you have a situation where, let's say Reddick's always going to be on the field in third down. Now one of JJ or McDonald is sitting. That's much more. That's much more. I could digest that. I could digest one of them sitting. I cannot digest JJ and JFM sitting on certain third downs because they want McDonald and Reddick out there for speed rushes, like, whatever it may be. So in my mind, JFM is more of a D tackle this year, or he's at least much more of a D tackle this year than he was in prior years. But do you need 2 run stuffing guys at D tackle? Could they add one? Sure. Like, does Clemens get kicked off the team if there was a really good, let's say that, what's his name, like Tavondre Sweat, whatever his name is, from Texas. He's obviously had a kind of a shaky process. If he falls, the Jets draft him in the 4th round, 5th round, because he falls because of legal problems, whatever he's going through. Can you cut a Clemens? Yeah, right. I'd have to write out all the names on the defensive line to see if they even need to cut Clemens. But you typically carry 9 to 10, defensive linemen. So I think they could draft another guy, but is it a need, like necessity? No. What position is Mr. Relevant going to be? Quarterback. Just get another one of those. I like a running back realistically, but I want the Mr. Irrelevant quarterback just so I can hear 1,000 times that he's, could he be Purdy and all this stuff. Only imbecile in America that does not have alt at 1. I am not the only guy in America who has alt at 1. And again, Big Al, I'm sure a lot of your research comes from 5 minutes of YouTube highlights and other people's scouting reports who you didn't even see them actually break down film. They just said something and you bought it. So, cuck life. So I got to go, but thanks for the show. You do great, Joe. I appreciate that. I don't understand the arguments against sliding, assuming there's offers, but come on now there will be offers. There's only 4 guys I'll stick and pick, alt, and 3 of the wide receivers. I don't understand arguments against sliding, assuming there's offers. Oh, okay. So you don't understand not trading down. Again, it's just about value. Like if you personally, Dino, think that there's not much of a gap between Fashanu, Latham, and they're all there at 10, then yeah, trade down. But there might be somebody who has Latham way above those guys and doesn't want to trade down because, getting an extra third round pick for the lesser player may not be worth it. Like, it's all about personal preference with that one. But for you personally, you're only sticking and picking alter one of the three receivers. I would add Latham to that. And I'm not going to say I would almost take out Odunze of your equation there, add Latham, and then I'm kind of with you. Like, I would rather trade down, but it kind of depends on, your personal value of each player. I'm here, brother. Appreciate you, Domsey, being in here. Hey, Joe, I know I'm not going to get a full slate of film reviews you're doing. I know you got a full, but how about McConkey? Again, Verge, we're so close to this point. I'm not adding another guy to the docket. I just can't. Like, I've mentally given up on watching prospects until we actually draft them. I did get a little bit bored because I didn't watch any like film or break down any film for like a good 6 or 7 days. So then I was like, oh, we re-signed Ashton Davis. Let me do an Ashton Davis review. I watched every single snap of his on defense yesterday. And now I'm starting Sherwood. Because I think like Sherwood wasn't a guy who I thought like maybe I should do a review, but Mosley may be leaving in a year or two. And when he plays, he seems to pop up quite a bit. So I wanted to review him. Hey, my Arthur Smith article was the most viewed JetX article for like 6 months. I don't even know what was the article. I don't know. Ian Roddy says, would you rather trade up for Neighbors or trade back and add a second? Neighbors. Now, obviously, you're kind of giving me the field with the trade back. Like, is it trade back, get a second and Latham? Then, okay, then it's a conversation. But just given this information, Neighbors, definitely trade up for Neighbors. 51 players out of season, 53 players count in season. Okay, yeah, again, I am not the guy to talk to for salary cap and all that stuff. So Bowers was injured this year and had ankle surgery. Yeah, Ben pointed out to me last night, and maybe that's part of the reason, like when I watched him, some of his vertical jumps didn't look so good. But again, and I've said this multiple times now, it's not, I don't watch Bowers and say, oh, this is bad, that's bad, this is bad, he sucks. I watch him, I say, I have a question about his releases against press. I have a question about him in contested catch situations. I have a question about his deep ball tracking ability. So it's not like I'm seeing a bunch of traits. I'm saying, oh, this guy sucks. It's a lot of question marks. And I've said, I'm okay with him in the first round. It's just, I'm more okay with him in a trade down. He could be a stud. He could be a top 5 tight end, but I think that's quite a leap to make. At this point, like, if he was Kittle, draft him. If he was Kelsey, draft him. If he was Mark Andrews, draft him. But I have questions. It just is what it is. I don't know if I saw him really at all play against press, and he's going to have to do that at the NFL level at times. So I have questions about him, but he could be good. Like, I don't want people to like, oh my God, he drafts Bowers and he's getting 700-800 yards. Like, oh, Blewett said you hated him. He's like, no, I never said that. I never said I hated him. What kind of beer do you drink during the draft? Well, you tend to have quite a few, right? So you don't want to drink like a heavy gin or something like that. I don't know, man. Like, if I'm drinking beer, I'll probably go like generic and go like Yingling. Maybe I'll get like a little fancy and get like a Paulaner, like some type of like Waseiber or something like that. Or Spaten. I like Spaten, good German beer. But most likely probably like Yingling, just because like generic, my friends would like the Yingling stuff. But I'm not opposed to, as I get older, staying away from all those empty calories and just like drinking like straight up tequila. Like I might just come on here with like coconut tequila and just sip tequila. UFC 300 predictions. I don't have any, Ben. Even though I know about some fighters and all that stuff, I'm not the biggest like UFC guy. I watch the 4 major sports. I watch UFC if it's like a big fight, but I'm not I don't have any prediction. Maybe honestly, I probably should get into UFC. I probably like it quite a bit. But can you glean anything from our prior OL line selections that could help us differentiate between how our big board might be sorted? Damn, I have a mute button for that too, but I didn't mute myself. Let me do it now. Damn. It's kind of hard because like they've steered in both directions. They've went the more powerful, aggressive guys with Becton, with Cam Clark. They've went with the softer but more athletic guys with Warren Warren and Mitchell. And they've kind of went in the middle with ABT. So like they haven't really stuck to like a specific trait or anything like that with with their offensive linemen. So as far as offensive tackle 1 through 5, Dana, it's hard because they don't really stick and pick. Barnesy from Twitter. This is probably that Luke guy's like 14th account or somebody else, but there you go. If somebody can just get that out of there. Barnesy. Let's see Barnesy. I can't even see. Is it like a motorcycle or something like that? Is it even his face? 13 followers, wife hates him, kids hate him. He's on Twitter to take out his frustrations. Probably, realistically. If you're gonna go on and like shit up people you don't really know, I think you probably are lacking in your own life, Barnesy. So maybe turn look at yourself in the mirror there a little bit, bud. Keyboard warrior. So Bowers was injured this year and he had ankle surgery. He was not the same. Go watch him in the SEC championship game versus Bama where he destroyed Brian Branch and Henry. I watched all of him, all of Bowers. So I think I have the Bama game on there. I'm assuming, unless you're talking about the year prior. The thing I will say is I'm 100% going, if the Jets do draft him, I'm 100% going to go back and watch him in his prior years too, because his last year he had a low contested catch rate, but in the prior years he had a much better contested catch rate. So was it just a victim of circumstance, or was he lucky in those years? I don't know. I could say that based on watching him, his contested catch ability, I don't think it was just like, oh, he was a victim of circumstance. It was bad luck. I thought he set himself up poorly in contested catch situations. So unless he changed, I don't know. Joe or Dom, would you rather have pick 10 and whatever you want to do with it, or Marius Mims and pick 49? Pick 10. Give me pick 10, because Mims, you're assuming, okay, you're going to trade down to like 18, 19. Mims hasn't really started a lot of games. Now, again, I haven't watched him in full, so I don't know, but how far are you willing to trade down if that happens? I'm not sure where we're at here. I'm willing to trade down. It depends who's on the board. Is Latham on the board? Is Fashanu on the board? Is Alt on the board? Is Odunze on the board? Are none of them on the board? It really depends on how many guys are there. So it's hard to say right now, sitting 2 weeks before the draft. Lauren says, I really like to see that early weapon. How good is a rookie lineman going to be compared to, it's literally exactly what I've been saying. Lawrence, I don't know if you're here, from the start, but Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Alan Lazard. Then you have Fashanu versus Bakhtiari. How much better is Fashanu than Bakhtiari? I'm not sure. Now, with that being said, I can also say, okay, I could flip it on myself and say, well, you're also assuming that they're just going to keep Lazard. What if they sign Boyd? Okay, Boyd versus Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Bakhtiari versus Fashanu. So, we need Tequila Joe for the draft. You're gonna get some, I don't know about tequila. Really like Tequila Joe versus Beer Joe. I don't know. So Yingling guy here and generic. I take that back. Yingling is a generic beer. Yingling is not a bad beer. Like, it's the best of the generic beers in my opinion. So I'm not shitting on Yingling. Like, Yingling is my go-to generic. Now, if it's 8 o'clock in the morning, we do have a tradition where we get off the bus, we shotgun. So at like 8:05 a.m., you're shotgunning a beer. Yingling is a little bit heavier than like Miller's. So usually at games, it's like Miller's for the first couple hours, then like Yinglings or something like that a little bit later. But yeah, that's my generic beer. Like, if I'm going to a restaurant, I don't know the menu, give me a Yingling. That's where I'm at. If you're going to get into it, tomorrow is a good time to start. Helps pass the NFL offseason too. Ben, I seem to be busier than you are in the NFL offseason. So my offseason flies by because it's literally there's really no stop. There's no stop. Collins have taken the lead, hell yeah, and you can cut off the idiots that extend the smart people like Dan. I think I'll kind of like steal a little bit from what Ryan does. I'll probably like limit it to like a 5-minute call. I think he does a little bit shorter, but I'll probably do it to like 5 minutes just because I don't want to. I want to give people their time to speak, but I also don't want to keep anybody on for too long. So, how did you have the 2020 tackles ranked, if you remember? Damn, I don't know. I think I had Wills. Wirfs, Becton, Thomas. I didn't like Thomas at all based on his technique. He changed his technique at the NFL level. He did suck his first year, and then he bounced back. So maybe that's a little bit of a miss, but just basing on his last year at Georgia and then going into the NFL, he had similar technique. He sucked. He changed it. He was better. Okay, that's that is what it is. But yeah, I had Wills 1, Wirfs 2, I think. Becton 3, I believe that was mine. So I've got a freaking dog here, like in my nose again. Worst. Edward says, am I wrong in thinking we're likely in for another long rebuild after this year? I don't understand why people want JD back even with a playoff run. Why is one playoff run in 5 years acceptable? I don't think it's acceptable. Now, obviously, they haven't had the best situations with the quarterback, but you can also blame him. You can blame him for last year in terms of like not getting a capable backup, because you have Woody who says it, you have Saleh who says it, you have Joe Douglas who say that they want Zach Wilson to take a redshirt year, but they don't sign a backup, which makes no sense. So if they were to properly build their team last year, let's say you do get a Jacoby Brissett, let's say it is Tyrod. Does Tyrod win us the Raiders game? Maybe the first Pats game. I would say so. Like, I think you're 10 win team with Tyrod last year, and then maybe you break that streak. But JD has been spotty. Like, there's been really good stuff. There's been great stuff with Quincy, with JFM, with Huff. Not the resigning of Huff, but the initial part of Huff. There's been great. There's been great draft classes. Obviously, Michael Carter II in the fifth round or whatever that was, Eccles in the sixth, Bryce Hall in the fourth or fifth, whatever. Like, he's had some great picks, but then he also has times where, again, not addressing backup quarterback, rookie OC, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, no tight ends that year. No really mentor at quarterback. Like, there's been really, really good with Douglas and really, really bad. So I don't think he's a guy like you sign up for another run. But he's like on the fence, right? Like, he's on the hot seat. So let's see. Yeah, I don't think he's a guy who's saying like be re-upped if Salah's gone or anything like that. So Big Alley also went to Nania's show to insult Joe, kick rock scuba. Yeah, it's, again, how is it I don't know. Again, I've had a guy who like literally made like multiple accounts on Twitter because I just keep blocking him because I'm not going to argue over like stats and stuff. Like, the film's out there, but it is what it is. Big Al, how tall are you? I am 6 foot. What's your social security number? 14594. Eat shit. With all due respect, do we expect Tyrod to be capable with Nate Hackett as his coordinator? It's we can ask about the entire offense. Can we ask, do we expect anybody to be capable with him? No, well, I get what you're saying in terms of like play calling and stuff. Yeah, I would say he'd be capable. I don't think that Nate Hackett he wouldn't exemplify Tyrod's strengths and stuff like that, maybe. But he'd be much more capable than Zach Wilson, for sure. So, wow, I thought we were like 5'7". No, I'm 6 foot. Wow, it's like I don't know. Ben, which 3 Jets moments haunted you the most? Aaron Rodgers last year, easily number 1. I would say collection like this. This is kind of including like this entire year. Butt fumble, Tebow. I would say 2012, if we can count that as like an overall moment. So Rodgers, 2012, and Adam Gase are probably the 3 worst. And if you want to boil down 2012, it's just like Tebow. What are you signing Tebow? That whole circus, the Jets sucking. So yeah, Rodgers 1, Gase 2. And then 2012 3, close fourth, might even be my 3, going to Buffalo, in 2015 and watching them get beat live in person, them not getting to the playoffs. That was pretty bad. So Big Al. I guess does Lance Zierlein not have Alt as his number 1? I think there's another like GM or something like that, or a former GM who said he doesn't like Alt either. And again, I'm not even saying that he's a bust or anything like that. I'm saying he's my tackle 2 and not my tackle 1. I don't think it's crazy. So it is what it is. Doug Bryan for me, because I live in and around Pittsburgh. Yeah, and that was in what, Dano? Like early 2000s, late 90s, right? Because that was like what, 2001, 2000, something like that. I was like 7, 8 years old, so I wasn't really watching football. So I can't say that I was heartbroken. Mud Bowl also not old. I don't think I was born in Mud Bowl, right? Mud Bowl. What year was that? Italian Eddie Ralph. Do you know if they are changing? Okay, 2004. Okay, so I was 11. So I was starting to watch the Jets. I wasn't the biggest like football fan when I was a kid because my family wasn't into sports really. So I grew a love for football from my friend and going to games with his dad. And obviously my friend, and that started probably like 11, like 10, like 9, 10, 11, 12. So like the early 2000s, I was like getting into the Jets, but I wasn't like a huge fan. So Joe, I know nobody's really talking about it, but what are your thoughts on the plans in the cornerback room going to pay Sauce soon? Do they extend Reader Michael Carter II? I don't think both are going to happen. if you had to say which one would you rather have, I would rather have Michael Carter II over Reed. I think it's a possibility that they extend both, but like realistically, now you're gonna have to you're extending both of them, Sauce, JJ, Brees, whatever else you're doing, you have some dead caps. So I get not thinking it's reasonable, and I think I've seen you bring this up on Twitter, actually, Dom Stace. I know where you're kind of steering with this, because I think you've said that the Jets are going to draft a corner, like you think they definitely are, which I think is a very real possibility. They've had really good success rate with corners, right, in late rounds. Right now, Bryce Hall was a hit. Eccles was a hit. Michael Carter II was a hit. Pinnock was a corner, transition to safety. He was obviously hit, but for the Giants. So they have a pretty good track record of drafting cornerbacks in the later rounds. So especially considering that, Eccles may be gone and, Reed may be gone, whatever exactly is going to happen. I think drafting a guy is not a bad option at all. Again, the Jets have 6 picks right now. I think they have 4 legit needs: tackle, guard, running back, receiver. I think safety, I think you could add another body there. I don't think Ashton Davis is some stud backup who you're thrilled with starting. Clark last year was going to be like that nickel backer, third safety. I was really thrilled with that. But, Ashton Davis, so I think they can use another guy there. But I think drafting a corner is a very real possibility. 06? No, it wasn't 06. Dano. It was definitely earlier than that. Had to be earlier than that. High school in 04, 06. Okay. 04 to 06. What about the other 2 years? 1 year? Because I was in high school from 2009 to 2007 to 2011. Yeah. So did you skip out? What happened? So you're what? You're like a couple years older than me? 82. Mud Bowl. Yeah. So I was -11 there. Captain K Techno. Knoble at 10. I do not know what that means. I'm pretty sure that's not a real name. If anybody knows what the Knoble thing at 10 means, then please let me know. But I do not know who Knoble is. If it's an actual player, I'm sorry, but I don't think it is. Yep. Okay, yeah, draft the guy because the cornerback room. Mm-hmm. I would extend Carter. I think Carter is a better slot than Reed is a 2. I think Reed is a very, very good, or just outside corner in general. I think that Carter is a better slot than Reed is an outside corner. Reed's very good. He definitely is very good, and I would like to extend them both. But like Dom said, is it realistic? You don't know. You have guys in the defensive line you have to extend. You have Garrett you have to extend. Again, what do you do with Brees? Most likely it's like a franchise tag. Maybe you franchise tag him twice. You don't know. If I had to bet, is Brees Hall here after another 2 or 3 years? Probably not. You see teams typically recycle running backs, and especially if the Jets are going to be out of that Super Bowl window. In let's say 2 years, you get 2 years out of Rodgers. That third, fourth year, is it worth paying a running back when you're most likely rebuilding? Probably not. So. Wasn't there a play at the beginning of one of the? Yeah, that was game 2 against the Niners. I'm pretty sure, Marvin. It was like Mostert or one of those guys. It was like a 90-yard touchdown run right to start off the game, and at that point, I knew it was over. The first game. What was the first game of that season? We got beat, and then it was I think the second game was the Niners. We got blown the hell out. And then the third game was the Colts, and we got blown the hell out. And I think that was Sam Darnold's year 3. So I forget what the first year or the first game of that year was. That was Darnold's third year. What was Darnold's third year game 1? I'm pretty sure the Niners 90-yard run was week 2 of Darnold's second or third year. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm misremembering. 88. Knoble is a one of a million Assman running jokes that he needs beat to a pulp. It's so it's like an inside joke. Sorry, I'm not privy. AVT's 5th year option decision comes up in May. Carter is only drafted player coming up for an extension in 25. Garrett Wilson, Sauce, and JJ aren't free agents till 27. Yeah, but after this year, they're eligible for extensions, Tony. And guys who are going to be, you're talking about the top corner in the NFL. If obviously he continues his upward trend, he's not going to appreciate not getting extended. So you could keep Sauce for his 3rd or 4th, extend the 5th year option, tag him, then you have him for 6 years. You can have Garrett for 5. I get all that, but they're eligible for extensions after this year. And that's typically when you see teams take care of like their top-notch players is after that third year. They could play the fourth. They could play that fourth, but after this year, yeah, they may sign them. Bills 2020 week 1. Oh, no. Bills 2020 week 1. That was the game that they came back, right? Mosley? No, because then after that Bills game where Mosley tore his groin, week 2 was Thursday night Browns, right? No, that can't be right. Let's see. Jets 2020 schedule. Is it? Are you might obviously you're probably right. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody got to figure that out. What year was that? Was that Niners game? Was the Niners game the? Shit, it's not gonna let me scroll. I hate the internet. Jets 2020 schedule. What year was the? Okay, so the Niners were game 1. Oh, okay. Is that true? I feel like that's not true. I don't know. Somebody's got to figure that out. What season that was. Nonetheless, RJ says they had a visit with Max Milton, cornerback Rutgers. He's a late second, early third guy. Like he's a really big like physical upside guy, right? Would you be mad with him at 72 or even a slight trade up to the second? No, I'm not going to say trade up. I wouldn't be happy with a trade up for a cornerback at 72. I think it's probably not the best allocation of resources because, that guy is most likely going to be like your 5th or 6th corner this year. Maybe he moves up to like your 4th and he overtakes Eccles and Oliver, whoever it may be. But I'd rather use that on a position we need a little bit more. That third safety is going to play more than the 5th corner. That running back 2 is going to play more. So I think it'd probably be a little bit early for a corner, but definitely not a trade up. If it was the pick, I'm okay with it, but no. Week 1 was CJ Mosley injury that year. So it was Bills, and then I thought it was the Browns the week after that though, because it was the mono thing, and then Simeon came in, broke his leg versus Myles Garrett. But the year with the Niners, week 2, I thought it was week 2, and then they blew us out. I didn't think it was week 1. I don't remember anybody opening. I don't remember opening up against the Niners. What was 2019 then? 2019 Jets schedule. Maybe it was that year. No, because I'm pretty sure they got rid of Gate. They got rid of not Gase. They got rid of Sam after that. Okay, so 2019 was the Buffalo year, Ben. 2020 was the year that I was talking about. So 2020 we opened with in Buffalo. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, in Buffalo. I'm sorry, Ben. We opened in Buffalo, lost. San Fran got blew out. Yep. Then you had Indy got blown out, and then you had the Denver game on like Thursday Night Football or whatever that was, and we got beat by like Brett Ripien or whoever that was, blown out versus the Cardinals, blown out versus the Dolphins, blown out versus the Chiefs, blown out versus the Dolphins, blown out versus the Seahawks. Oh my God, that was such a bad year. Yeah, 2020 was the bad year. That was the Niners game. Joe says, Joe, you solo are the absolute best. Anybody you bring on will slightly take away from your content, and speed in which you give that content will be altered too. Again, I get people thinking either way. But we'll see. Maybe we'll do a test run. Maybe we'll do every other time. Maybe we'll do one solo the next month, call in. Maybe next solo, one call in. Maybe that's how I'll work it if it's gonna be that close. Yeah. I'm sorry, Ben. Callers, Bills week 1 mono. Yeah, and that was the Myles Garrett game. Trade up for Keon Coleman if he slips. To where though? To where? All these visits is for their, but isn't so. I know, Dom. I think we worked off of that on a Jet X Factor article, or I definitely saw it on Twitter where you're like tracking all the visits. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Jets didn't visit with Tippmann last year, but they visited with JMS like multiple times, and then they drafted Tippmann over JMS. So visiting with guys does not correlate to the Jets drafting them. Quarterback to be taken in late round. I don't know, Christian. I don't know. Christian. I don't know. It's I think a lot of people talk about Jordan Travis, like injuries but does he have an NFL arm? I don't know. I haven't watched enough guys. Give me the high physical upside guy. If Travis is a guy who's just like an average athlete, I'd rather take whatever quarterback like has a cannon, but is very unrefined, and hopefully you could develop him for 2 years. If you are a player, are you signing an extension with a team that's going to do a complete rebuild with limited cap space? It kind of depends. Like, that's a loaded question, right, Tony? Do you have a kid? Is your kid in school? Is he not in school? Do you care about the taxes? Is your family here? Like, that's such a hard decision to make. But in general, if I was a player, is there any reason to have loyalty to the Jets at this point? No, not necessarily. Now, what if they win the Super Bowl this year? Do you feel like, hey, I started my career here, we won a Super Bowl, I want to finish my career here? It's all about that individual player. I could tell you, if I was an NFL player and I wasn't a Jets, or if, just in general, even if I was a Jets fan, would I rather take a $20 million contract from the Dolphins versus the Jets? Yes, because I'm going to make a lot more money with the Dolphins because they're not going to steal all my money. The government's not going to steal my money. We didn't open personality. Yeah. It was week 2 that year, 2020 week 2. It was week 2. It was week 2. Smoke screen for what? Look at the 27 Eagles dead cap. It's Howie planning to go into witness protection. I think now it'll be fixed. Yeah, we'll be able to fix it. We're not going to be able to be as stacked as we are now in future years. But yeah, you could manipulate it. Like, look at the Saints, how they change so often. So does it concern you that people are underestimating how bad an effect Hackett's incompetence can have on, I guess, you said the season down here. Sure, if we didn't have Rodgers, like, I would be concerned if we didn't have Rodgers, but Rodgers is the OC. Again, Hackett's is a consultant. So I legitimately feel that way too. I'm not just saying that. Rodgers is the offensive coordinator. Objectively speaking, how much of a fall off was Rodgers' play from 21 to 22? You think the thumb injury was a primary reason for it? Both. It's I didn't watch Rodgers in 22 and be like, oh my God, he's terrible. I could tell you that, there was like a puzzling decision or two. He struggled versus the Lions. He didn't look good in that game, especially later on. Threw a pick to Hutchinson. Like, there was some not so good Rodgers plays in 2022, in 2022, but then. Look at what he's working with. Watson did not come on until late. He had Romeo Doubs, who dropped like seemingly everything that he was thrown his way. He wasn't getting open. Like, he had a bunch of rookies and let's be real here, lesser players at receiver. Lazard was your starter. That's not great. The offensive line was okay. The tight ends weren't great. I specifically remember, I think it was like Tunyon or whoever it was, like dropping 2 or 3 Rodgers touchdowns that year. So it was part injury, it was part the talent around him, and then it was partially, like, some of it was on him, but you're hurt, you don't like you don't have the greatest talent around you, you force it a little bit. I'm not so concerned with 22. Now I'm concerned that 22 was 2 years ago now, and you have a 2 years older Rodgers. So do I expect Rodgers to be MVP 21 Rodgers? No. But do I expect him to be 85, 90% of that? Yes. And is 85, 90% of 21 Rodgers still a top 5 to 6 quarterback in the NFL? In my opinion, yes. Like, I expect Rodgers to be the 5th, 6th, 7th best quarterback, however you quantify that in the NFL this year. I still do. So both as an answer to your question in the poll, maybe 2 shows a week, or no, my wife will, my balls will be stabbed on the wall here. 1 show a week, still 1 show a week because of the film. If I didn't do the film, I could do 5 shows a week. But maybe I'll alternate. Maybe it'll be like, let me see what is the vote right now. I don't even know. Collins is 51. Yeah, it might be a thing where like 1 month it's Collins, 1 month it's not, and we'll see how it goes. When do we move on from Lazard? After next year. Massive dead cap hit, I believe, this year if they get rid of him. Next year, it's feasible. Appreciate you happy tanking. Big Al does not agree with you. I have no idea who it is. Again, it's probably a burner. I don't see a complete rebuild with these young players. Just need to find AR's replacement, not overplay. Yeah, it's, just find the replacement for Rodgers. We've had quite a few years of trying to find a quarterback with no success, but do I think with a core of JJ, Wilson, Sauce, Brees, they could bounce back after Rodgers? Yes. I don't think it's a complete teardown, but for a year or two, you're going to be like maybe floating around just a mid, average team. Yeah. Like it might be like a 2-year, like not rebuild. It's not like a reboot. It's just like a reshuffle the deck a little bit, like, move some guys around, maybe compete, but not necessarily go for it all. And then in 27, 28, 29 is when you trade up and you get that quarterback, it's hard to tell the future. So. I thought dead cap was a year-to-year basis. Yeah, but like you can put void years on and roll stuff over and do whatever you got to do. We need to move up and go get Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what I said. I am with you, Azuma. That's what I've been saying. I'm not saying necessarily him, just because I think he might cost a little bit more, but I've been pretty frequently saying on Twitter to trade up and get Neighbors. Ben says, is it realistic to expect the Jets to find a legit running back 2 on day 3? Do you trust Abanikanda? Is there a free? So I don't know, like the free agency running backs, because I'll say a name and then like I'll get articles and whatever else, like, oh, this guy's not good, whatever it may be, because I'm not watching them. But how is Kareem Hunt played? Actually, let's just see free agent running backs NFL. Let's see who's out there off the top of my and I'll just tell you off the top of my head. Ranking. I'm going through like a list of guys I think who already signed. Like who is still out there. I'm not getting a list of who's still out there. J.K. Dobbins, take a shot. Injury. Okay. Is Zach Moss still out there? I would be interested in Zach Moss. I think Sony Michel went back to the Pats or maybe not back to the Pats. He went somewhere else. So I'm not so sure about him. I'm doing spot track. They're a little bit better here. Damian Harris, I think he might have retired though, right? But I think Nani wrote an article about like him being a good gap fit guy. Is he available? Okay. J.K. Dobbins, some injuries. You're a little bit concerned about having so many injuries on your offense or injured type guys. Kareem Hunt. So there's a few names. There's really not much like Jerick McKinnon. Would he be the worst running back 2 in the world? I don't know. I haven't necessarily watched him. Boston Scott, Zeke. There's some names out there. There's nobody who I'm like clamoring to get right now at running back 2. But do I trust Izzy in a vacuum? No, he didn't prove anything to me last year. Now, was he put in a shitty position to prove something because he's been on a terrible offensive line? 1,000%. But with that being said, still hasn't proven anything. So I'm not confident with him at running back 2. I would like to get a veteran. Has Kareem Hunt really, really fell off that hard? I don't know. If he's anything like I when I watched him a year or 2 ago, then I would take him. Joe and the poll, we're doing Collins. I need to vent. Maybe the first month. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. Maybe I'll definitely do Collins on that Friday now. The second and third round of the draft, I will do Collins. We'll see how it goes. I think I'll do a limit of 5 minutes. I don't know how to pull it up fancy like Ryan does, but after 5 minutes, I'll basically end it and we'll see how it goes. Unless there's an amazing call in and maybe I have one too many. I don't want to talk, but we'll see. I would rather pay more and know I'm getting a superstar from the rip. I'm with that too, Azuma. Especially in an all-in year too, right? Like it's not if we were expecting the Jets to be 7-10 this year, I get more dart throws, build out the depth of the roster. But in an all-in year where you only have one really big need, why not fill that one really big need with an absolute stud? Give me Zeke. Good blocker. So the only thing about this, Joe, and this is not from me, this is from just like numbers. He actually was apparently pretty bad as a blocker this year and pretty bad as a short yardage back. Now I could go back and watch and say it's the offensive line, it's the quarterback's fault. He held it too long. It's the offensive line, whatever it may be. But the numbers seem to indicate otherwise. Numbers aren't everything though. Numbers aren't even half of it, in my opinion. Somebody brought it up before. Garendo from Louisville. Joe Namath and 68 Jets kicked me off the park playing field when I was in second grade. True story. Wow, that's wild. Kicked me off the park. It's so crazy like how far NFL has come, right? Like those guys were working as plumbers and electricians and stuff like that, barely making any money in the NFL, to now you have guys who are bottom level players making $1 million a year. It's quite wild. Azuma says we have more of a need at wide receiver than offensive line. If Garrett Wilson gets hurt, we are fucked. We need another wide receiver 1 like Harrison. I wouldn't say wide receiver 1. I would just say a starting level receiver, Azuma. Like I don't think you need to fill it with Harrison. Is Harrison the best possible, scenario? Yes. But in a world where you tell me, hey, they draft an offensive lineman at 10, would picking up a guy like Boyd fill that role sufficiently? I think so. Like having Boyd as your receiver 3/2 when Mike Williams is out for a week or 2. I think that's good enough. But would I rather have Harrison over Boyd? Like hell yes, of course. I've already established like I am in the camp of trading up for a receiver. So I'm with you. In terms, I caught up the chat, a couple minutes left. Let me see if I have anything else I know I have a couple of notes. GGA says, which offensive tackle would you like to see us draft? Realistically, I think Alt's going to be gone. And even if, conversation for a different day, I'm going to say it's Latham. If there's one guy at 10 who I think is realistic who the Jets are going to draft, I'm going to say Latham over the other options I believe will be available at 10, at least at offensive line. So a couple of like notes of just things that I didn't really discuss. Mike Williams deal, that was 2 years. That was like 2 weeks ago that I wanted to discuss this. So it's really not something nothing big here, but he's basically making $8.3 million this year base. And then he is going to make another $1.7 million in per game roster bonuses. So again, $8.3 million to be on the Jets this year. Signing bonus is 3.3, 5 million base. So 8.3, 1.7 million more in incentives to get to 10. And then another $5 million in stat incentives, which are receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns. So if he comes in, it's a bust and he gets injured. We paid him $8.3 million. I thought it was a good swing. If he balls out, plays like an absolute stud, plays all the games, gets a bunch of yards and touchdowns, then guess what? We paid a really, really good number 2, $15 million. Like hell of a deal for the Jets there. Hell of a deal with Tyron Smith as well. Other things that just popped up, and I'll let the chat build up a little bit, and then I'll go back into it. Solomon Thomas did sign a 1-year, $3 million deal. I thought he was a good backup last year. First year with the Jets, disappointing. He really turned on at the end of 2022, and then 2023, just the entire season, he's a pretty solid rotational player. So I think that's a good deal. I would take right now 1 rep, Solomon Thomas or Javon Kinlaw. Give me Javon Kinlaw. So no Clowney. Clowney signed with the obviously with the Panthers. Not so much of a concern there. We got Reddick. We talked about Reddick last week, right? I can skip past that. We had the whole Woody versus Saleh thing. I think it was, who was it from NFL Network? I don't want to throw the wrong person's name out there, so I won't say it until somebody corrects me in the chat. But somebody from NFL Network basically said that they overheard that there was a big fight between Saleh and Woody Johnson, at the NFL honors meetings or whatever it was. And then Woody comes out and is like, this is objectively false. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then multiple people refuted whoever it was. I believe it was Colleen Wolf. If it wasn't, I apologize, but I believe that's her name. And then she apologized for it, but it's like, where'd you get that info from? She's like, I wasn't trying to break news. Then what were you trying to do? So that was interesting. That happened. Bills got rid of Diggs, just based on like them getting rid of Morse, them getting rid of Diggs, them getting rid of Davis, them getting rid of Trey White, Trumaine Edmonds last year. I think the Bills are the 3 team in the AFC East now. I think the Jets are competing with the Dolphins for number 1 this year. Now the Dolphins, they haven't won games versus good teams, and obviously they froze in Kansas City. So I think it's very realistic that the Jets do finish with the number 1 overall seeding in the AFC East. But if you're telling me right now, on this date, April 12th or whatever it is, 13th, 14th, I'm not sure, the 12th, I believe, actually, are you more afraid of the Bills or the Dolphins as competitors for seed 1? I would say the Dolphins. The Bills, they've lost a lot of good players. And right now their receiver 1 is Curtis Samuel. They got rid of Diggs. No more Hyde. No more Poyer. No more White. I don't know, man. I think Bills are our team 3. Our team 3, new kickoffs. We talked about that. Hardy gone. We talked about that. We talked about Ashton Davis coming back. Again, Ashton Davis to me is a okay depth player, but if he is starting for you, I think that is a problem. He was okay last year. Let's be realistic here. I think his first couple of years he was bad. This year he was okay. They re-signed him, I think, mostly for to be a strong safety in the box and like big nickel looks, and then also as a special teamer. But in terms of like a spot starter, I'm not there with him. And now the biggest needs being, I would say receiver is probably your biggest need. Backup tackle is probably your second biggest need. I would say backup guard center is probably your third biggest need. I would say running back 2 is 4. I would say tight end 2 is probably 5, and then safety 6. I think people might think I'm crazy for saying tight end 2 as a big need or as a need. To me, it is. And if it's not tight end 2, it's tight end 3. Who is tight end 3 right now? Yaboa? Has Ruckert really proven enough to you guys that if Conklins go down, that you're faithful in Ruckert? I get the good story, Long Island kid, Bill Ruckert, funny on Twitter. He seems like one of us, but Ruckert hasn't proven anything in 2 years realistically, right? Like, what has he done? So I would say like getting another guy there later on in the draft, Bowers, whatever it may be. I would like to see tight end 2. So again, receiver, tackle, guard, running back 2, tight end 2 or 3, and then I would say safety 4 are the things I still want to see addressed. Past that, I really can't complain. I cannot complain. I got the most heartbreaking Jet story of all time that most people never heard about. Okay, well, tell us. I want Latham. Yeah, Latham would be my pick at 10. In terms of the, if it's him, we're assuming him, Fashanu, Fatanu, Fuaga are there, something like that. I'm taking Latham. I don't know if you said this already, but Alt over Odunze. So Alt is going to finish overall higher on my big board. But in terms of picking at 10, I would take Odunze. Just because I think Alt plays 30, 35% of the reps. Odunze plays 65, 70% of the reps. And I'm lower on Alt than I would say the consensus. Definitely lower on Alt than the consensus. But I want the guy to push us over the edge. And I think that receiver, that playmaker might do that, or may do that. The only other player I would want is Devontae Adams. If not him, go get Harrison Jr. Devontae, like $30 million cap hit. We're negative $2 million. I don't think that's going to work out. But yeah, give me Harrison. Who do you take in this scenario? 1 Caleb, 2 May, 3 Daniels, 4 Marvin Harrison Jr., 5 Latham, 6 Neighbors, 7 Alt, 8 Trade McCarthy, 9 Odunze. Oh my, Fashanu. I'm Fashanu there, and honestly, my two in that scenario is Bowers. Like I'm not so against Bowers. It's just not my preference. Bowers at 10 is a very type of pick to me. I'm not saying he's gonna be bad. I think he could be good again. So yeah, in that situation, I'm taking Fashanu or Bowers. Colleen Wolf, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was her name. You can't restructure rookie deals, 5th-year options, minimum contract spend years. You can't restructure. You can't restructure rookie deals, but you can sign extensions after 3 years. That 4th year, you can sign an extension. So, Yuboa Hive assemble. Quarterback isn't. Yeah, cornerback's a future need. I'm not gonna say it's a need this year, but in the future, it is. Jets will absolutely extend Sauce before exercising his 5th-year option. Probably Garrett Wilson also. Yeah, you don't want to piss guys off. Like if if they're good Jets and they deserve to be paid, pay them. You do not want to keep Sauce for 5 years and then say, hey, we didn't extend you early. We didn't do you good. We didn't do you any favors. I'm sure Sauce not going to do us any favors on either. Hey, match the biggest offer. Then I'll come back. But past that, I'm not doing you any favors either. So probably after the season for Sauce. I think Sauce and Garrett. So which current Jet would you trade for a 2nd rounder? Which current Jet would you trade for a 2nd rounder? Zach Kuntz, Carter Warren, Zaire Barnes. Now, who like realistically, who do I think could go for a 2nd round pick? I don't know. Like the only guys I don't think they're trading anybody. Like a vegan. I think you can trade Jay. Like I think the only guy who's somewhat realistic for trading would be like, hey, you trade down, you get Byron Murphy, and now you don't have a role for JFM on the interior. You trade JFM for like a 4th round pick. I think something like that. But for a 2nd, I'm sure there's guys on the Jets who are worth a 2nd. But who am I trading for a 2nd rounder? Nobody. Laken Tomlinson signed with Seattle. We need Becton and Lawson to sign to get our comp pick back. Yeah, Tony, isn't it something to the effect, Wild Wave? Isn't it something to the effect of like the Jets need 2 more players to sign contracts over $3 million before April 28th to get a 4th round pick? Now, if that doesn't happen, do the Jets just not get a pick, or do they get a 5th round pick? Again, I'm not the best at all that stuff. It just seems crazy to me that would go from a 4th all the way to nothing. So maybe it's a 5th, but that could be part of the Jets thinking with Hassan Reddick. Like, hey, we have him for a year, but we traded a 3rd for him, but we get a 4th back. So you're trading a 3rd for a 4th for 1 year of Reddick. I can see that being the plan. Now, if the Jets aren't going to be able to get a comp pick for Huff, maybe they're more inclined to sign Reddick long term. Because they didn't get the comp pick now they look a little bit silly. But if you told me, hey, in a vacuum, you're trading down from the 3rd round to the 4th round for 1 year of an elite edge rusher, you do it. But does that 4th turn into a 5th, or does that 4th turn into nothing? Again, I'm not sure. Even a 3rd to a 5th, I would say you're more inclined to re-sign him than not. But I think if the Jets were to get a 4th, then it's a pretty smart trade, no matter what. So what's the worst case scenario for night 1 of the draft? I think you kind of just laid it out, honestly. Yeah, I'm not going to touch on that. I could say quite a few things about that. I'm I'm not going to, because I'll say quite a few things. I'm not even going to get into it. That he's been accused of quite a few things, and I think he needs to get a little bit of a life. I've seen a lot of him with Bowers and stuff, and attacking content creators about Bowers. Yeah, I could say a lot more. I'm not going to, but he needs to just relax a little bit. I'll probably just block him and be done with it. I don't need to interact. What would Sauce's next contract look like? I don't know. What's the highest corner in the league getting paid by? Increase that by $1 million or $2 million, right? Let's see. Highest paid cornerbacks NFL. Let's see. Packers Jair Alexander's $21 million. Sauce, 4 years. Let's make it 5. Yeah, let's make it 5 years. I don't know. 5 years, $110 million, $66 million guaranteed. Something like that. $22 million a year, $23 million a year. It depends, obviously, on how many corners signed. Now, the problem is Surtain is a year younger than Sauce, and Surtain's going to get paid. So you probably have Surtain at 22-ish. Sauce probably like 22 and a half, 23, I would say, if I had to bet. Has DJ Reed been restructured? No, he's not been. And I don't think he's restructured. You want I'm going to I saw something. He's not a restructure, he's an extension. So you could extend him, not really restructure him because he only has a year left. Correct, Joe, 2 more contracts or they get no comp back at all. Yeah, that's wild. From 4th to nothing. I'm not even going to say this, but I'll just pull it up on the screen for anybody who wants to read it. That's quite hilarious in terms of some of the allegations out there. I'm not saying they're funny, but yeah. Yeah, you know what? Like, it is what it is. I've heard sexual allegations against those people, like his crew. I've heard people winning prizes and never getting the prize, or them trying to skip out on the prize. I see him consistently go on Twitter and fight about where he ranks amongst podcasters. If there's any lists where, like, let's say random Johnny says that my top 5 content guys are Joe, Tyson, Green Bean, Ryan, and Jets Media, he'll be commenting on it like, oh, it's a fucking joke how I'm up there. So you kind of have like an older dude who's trying to buy himself popularity by giving stuff away, and who needs to get the fuck off of Twitter. Sorry, dude. Like, guy consistently tweets about Bowers and stuff and is tweeting me and calling me out. And the first sentence of his thing is, oh, well, amateur analysis that you fucking follow and I don't follow you back. Like, hey, maybe give some more shit away, or don't, give shit away. Maybe it'll be popular then. Maybe people will like you. Like, what a fucking bogus move. So if he's gonna be bogus, I'll be bogus. It's fine. Got to double check. Truth though is what it is, right? And if we're gonna start taking shots at people, let's do it. I haven't done shit. My people have not got sexual allegations against them. Can't we all just get along? We could, Kayuka, but I didn't call anybody out. I'm just speaking my truth now. There's no allegations against me. I'm clean. I'm clean as a whistle. Nothing. People don't have anything on me. I'm again, sexual allegations and stuff like that. I'm not going to try to get into it and really criticize anybody because you don't know what happened. Because realistically, with whatever it is, again, I didn't really read into the situation, but there are crazy people out there. I deal with a lot of crazy people. It only takes, and again, I'm not saying this happened either way. It only takes a guy breaking up with a crazy girlfriend and then them making false accusations against them. Or it could be a situation where people really do it and they deserve to burn in hell. No, I'm saying for like sending a, unwanted, nude or anything like that. But you know what I'm saying? We don't know. I don't know. Not taking shots. Can't we? Yeah. Peyton goes back to Tennessee. Jets then trade to number 1 to Rams, who take Orlando Pace. Got to trade up for Archie Manning. Sucks Murdog. That's right, Joe. Okay, so I didn't necessarily even want to talk about that. Yes, I saw I got called out on Twitter. I just don't respond because I feel like it's better to not give people their time of day. Like, what really pisses people off is just not responding at all. Like, just muting that person, and then you don't know that you block them, but you also don't answer them. That boils people's blood. If you block them, like, oh, I made an impact. Fuck that guy. I just won't answer. I just won't answer. So Tony, the GM, Joe, let your content do the talking. You do it the right way. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's I put out my evidence there. If you don't want to watch, you don't watch. Again, in that scenario, I was accused of saying, you know, I think he put words in my mouth and said that, you know, I wouldn't take him in the 4th round. It's like, no, I said that I wouldn't love him at 10, but I still think he could be a star. Like me saying I wouldn't take him at 10, but I still think he could be a star. I have a lot of questions. Now it turns into he's a 4th round pick and I absolutely hate Brock Bowers. Like, no. Dom C is trying middleman. I don't know. Did Dom tweet something out about it? Or is there like a new thing? I'm about to get blown up on Twitter, whatever. There's no piece to be made. Like I'll just block and move on. I never need to interact with him ever because I never really have. Minus him jumping into my stuff, which again, Noodle back in the day. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go. I shouldn't even said what I said, but that'll, I'm sure that'll be I'm going to jump off. I will see you. Dom responded. He was being a good dude. Dom is a good dude. I like Dom. I will see you guys next time. 2 more weeks before the draft. Next week, I'll do big board and all that stuff.